Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Uchiha, Draw Your Swords. Cut Down the Konoha. Chapter 21. The first assessment was different from what Ruahuo remembered. Think about it, you can't use the same test questions for decades, right? However, the content of the assessment is also similar. For example, you can score points if you master cheating, or to be precise, a method of gathering intelligence. In Ruahuo's view, Naruto's last question about humanity at that time would definitely not appear in a period like this. Joke. The Third Ninja War, the most dangerous one for Konoha, was beaten to Mount Kikyo at the doorstep. Under such circumstances, when selecting people who can fight, should humanity be given priority? So how should White Fang's death be calculated? White Fang. Ruahuo touched his chin. At this time, it's time for White Fang to go on that mission, right? If there was a chance, he could talk to Fugaku and help White Fang. The system has responded clearly. After completing the S-level mission, it seems that the relationship module can be unlocked, which should support the creation of several vassals. Although I don't know whether I will be given another mission after the S-level mission, SSS. Anyway, if you have a few more helpers, you will definitely not suffer a loss. Well, it should be impossible to ask White Fang to find a widow in Uchiha and marry her into a wife, right? Uchiha Tsukumo. Uchiha Kakashi. This name is a bit long. I feel that White Fang would not agree. After all, the Hitaki clan is the only one in the world. I don't know if Fugaku has the courage. If it doesn't work, I can only appear in person. Ruahuo thought to himself and walked towards the second examination room. This assessment should be very different from the next ones. Looking at the forest in front of him, Ruahuo felt that he had stabilized. What he didn't know was that in front of the crystal ball, the two old men were already quarreling because of him. This is cheating, monkey. This evil Uchiha, he doesn't deserve to be a chunin. But you just said he complied with the rules. That's different. Danzo slammed the table. He has broken the rules now. Cheating is not allowed and he should be disqualified from the assessment. Third generation looked at a loss. This assessment itself is a test of intelligence gathering ability. What on earth are you talking about, Danzo? He dares to cheat in the assessment today, and tomorrow he dares to peek at Konoha's confidential information for Uchiha. This is the bad nature of Uchiha, they are born evil, monkeys. He's still a child, Danzo. Monkey. You disappoint me so much. Have you forgotten the teacher's instructions? How many times do you want me to tell you, he is still a child? Danzo. But he has the evil blood of Uchiha flowing in him. You've gone too far, Danzo. You are too weak, monkey, such a brat is not worthy of becoming a ninja. I am the Hokage, you will regret this. How about the ninja's physical fitness? It's been such a quarrel, but no one has suffered from high blood pressure or heart disease. The two old men glared at each other for a full minute this time, and neither one gave in. The third generation program didn't even pay attention to the results announced by the examiner in the crystal ball. In the examination room where Ruahuo was, except for him, only 2 teams passed the examination. The passing rate is less than half. Among them, Matkai wrote more than 30 pieces of information by himself, relying on his years of assessment experience and genin experience. These include several candidates in the same examination room who took the assessment last year but failed, as well as the detailed identity information of the examiner himself. Yes, this examiner was Matt Day's former teammate. More than 10 years ago, they were students of the same class at ninja school. No matter what, he has passed the first assessment. Third generation sat back down, lit the pipe again, and said in a deep voice, in the next second game, this kid doesn't have any teammates. No teammates. Danzo narrowed his one eye. Then why did you approve him to participate in the assessment? After Danzo finished speaking, he was stunned for a moment. I almost forgot, Monkey didn't seem to want this kid to graduate from the beginning. Then it was Orochimaru who came to ask me for help before he went on a mission. He is very optimistic about this child. Third generation took a puff of cigarette, and after calming down, he realized how unnecessary the argument just now was. I have become accustomed to making noise over the years. As soon as Danzo starts, he always gets into the zone. The time is short and there is no time to match this child with teammates. There is no single candidate in this class. Third generation said solemnly, I didn't want the children to be promoted too quickly. This Chunin assessment is just an experience. Third generation has set a flag. Humph. Danzo snorted coldly and did not continue to say anything. A 6-year-old kid who wants to pass the Chunin exam alone. Huh. Danzo narrowed his eyes. The monkey may do some stupid things, but based on his understanding of Orochimaru, that guy is different from his teacher. Does Orochimaru think that this brat really has the ability to pass the Chunin test? If that's the case, what are you thinking about? Third generation suddenly asked. I was thinking about that kid's cheating just now. Danzo said coldly. Although he violated the assessment regulations, I have to say that he caught the assessment loopholes twice in a row. Seizing the loophole does not mean breaking the rules, Danzo. Third generation said, still smoking and staring at Danzo. It doesn't matter, what I value is his spy talent. After saying that, without waiting for the third generation to say anything, Danzo shook his head in disgust. It's a pity that it's an Uchiha, otherwise the Roots could consider training him. Quote. Third generation continued to smoke and stared at Danzo for a long time before returning his gaze to the examination room. If Kagami is still alive, Danzo, you will disappoint him. If Kagami were still alive, he would have restrained Uchiha, the monkey. When it came to old friends, the two old men chose to remain silent in a tacit understanding. But Danzo knew. In this round of confrontation, he won. In the crystal ball, Ruahuo and the other remaining candidates stood in front of the second examination room. There was already an extra scroll in his hand. This assessment will end at the same time 7 days later. The only thing you have to do is to collect the 2 scrolls of Heaven and Earth in the examination room by any means. Quote. Then go to the tower and it will be deemed that you have passed the assessment. Attention, if you cannot persist during the assessment, or if you encounter danger, you can open the scroll immediately, but it will be regarded as giving up the assessment. The female examiner described rules similar to those in Ruahuo's memory. It's a pity that she is not wearing fishnets and her figure is not as hot as the future Hongdu. Speaking of which, I haven't seen Zhao Hong for a long time. I don't know if this girl misses me. Ruahuo, who silently recorded all the candidates in his mind, thought to himself while eating rice balls. Pleasant goat, lazy goat, boiling goat, red wolf, gray wolf. Stepping into this primitive and dense forest, listening to the chirping of insects and birds, Ruahuo felt much better. All of a sudden, I thought of several old childhood friends. They don't live in the forest, but live on the green grassland. It is said that they have lived for hundreds of years. It is normal for 100-year-old sheep to become sperm. They all have unparalleled wisdom, and Ruahuo also learned a lot about life from them. For example, the scheming sheep's art of controlling sheep. Another example is the research and development spirit of the macho big wolf. Or maybe it's the management policy of squad leader Nguyen Yang Yang. As you grow older, you may feel naive when you look back. But these principles of life do affect Ruahuo's growth. We are so lucky to meet this Uchiha kid. 3 ninjas jumped out of the grass, and one of them was the young man who came to make trouble before the exam. The 3 of them were all civilian ninjas, but they obviously didn't have Minato's talent. Seeing the lonely Ruahuo, everyone's faces were filled with excited smiles, as if Chunin's little vest was already waving to them. Kid, don't say that your brothers are bullying you, please hand over the scroll immediately. Otherwise, don't blame your brothers for beating you. Ruahuo didn't say anything, just raised his 2 fingers. Several young people were stunned at first. Couldn't they bear the signs of opposition between primary school students before the battle? Kid, didn't your parents tell you? This is the Chunin assessment, a battlefield. No one will cooperate with you in doing what you do in the ninja school. Not everyone is as tolerant as Orochimaru. Several young people rolled up their sleeves and prepared to teach this younger generation a lesson. Tisk. In front of the crystal ball, third generation shook his head. These kids are too eager for quick success. Although it is an assessment, Xiao Ruahuo is also one of their juniors. When they encounter a junior who is alone, it is enough not to help them, but when they come up, they will plunder the scrolls. Danzo glanced at the third generation. Rarely, he did not refute, but stared at the small figure. You know, before I graduated, I was the monitor of the first-year class at ninja school. Ruahuo still has the seal of opposition, but his chakra is ready. Squad leader. Several young people were amused. This kid. Why didn't he encounter such a good thing in the assessment in previous years? I was still a student on duty back then. Several people immediately rushed towards Ruahuo. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Fire-style Great Fireball. Ode. High-temperature flames spurted out from Ruahuo's mouth, but they sprayed in two directions, converging into two fireballs, one on the left and one on the right, and then turned into the form of two fire fists. This is not over yet. The fire fist spread out immediately and turned into a giant flame palm. Before the three genin could react, they saw that the giant flame palm was already slamming towards them. Spread out. The squad leader yelled and hurriedly dodged, but his two teammates failed to react. The giant flaming palm enveloped the two of them, swatting them like flies. Boom! Ah! The screams of the two people disappeared as quickly as they came. By the time the giant flame palm disappeared, the two of them were charred black and had lost consciousness. Don't you know that only those with a strong will of fire are qualified to become squad leaders? If you don't have enough will of fire, how can you protect the students in the class? Ruahuo looked contemptuous. I really don't know how you got the qualifications. Grandpa Hokage is indeed old and as soft-hearted as my grandma. Do you think Qingqing grassland is so easy to mix up? How could Nuanyang be the squad leader if he wasn't born with supernatural powers and was so powerful that he was unrivaled in the world? How to manage other sheep? Quote. In front of the crystal ball, third generation had a cigarette stuck in his throat, unable to move up or down. He has completely mastered the form changes of the fire chakra, and has also streamlined the ninjutsu seal, and even has the power to control its power. Danzo's face was expressionless and his one eye was cold. It seems that Orochimaru has developed his abilities well. Danzo clenched his fists where the third generation could not see him. Careless. During this period of time, he has been busy clearing out the enemy village spies in the village, but he has neglected the growth of this genius Uchiha. That Orochimaru guy really doesn't do useless things. Now it seems that this Uchiha kid does have the ability to become a Chunin on his own. Chunin Uchiha, who is less than 7 years old, still has such talent. Danzo restrained himself from looking at the third generation project, quickly weighing a choice in his mind. Can this genius of Uchiha be kept? What will he grow into? After going through that very special stage for Uchiha, will he become the second Uchiha Madara? If he leads Uchiha to launch a riot, will Konoha be able to withstand the losses? What if he is uniting with other ninja villages? Danzo, don't think too much. Third generation was keenly aware of Danzo's strangeness and warned him lightly. Danzo didn't respond this time. In the crystal ball. Does the scroll belong to you? Hand it over, or you can choose to eliminate yourself. Anyway, the scroll will be mine. Ruahuo still had his fingers raised. At this distance, he had at least 15 fire styles that could snipe the last enemy. You don't even need to tie the seal. Family reward Little Vulcan. You can learn any escape technique, but it will be replaced by flames. And the power is up pointing arrow 100%, the activation speed is up pointing arrow 200%, and the consumption is down pointing arrow 80%. The lower limit of consumption is 10%. You gain 90% immunity to high temperature. After accumulating so many ninjutsu, Son of Fire has been upgraded. The attributes of Little Vulcan include an additional activation speed, which means the seals are simplified. Combined with the main skill slot, various buffs can be filled up directly. The saving throw is directly maxed out. 1/10 of chakra can use 300% of its power. It can also change forms freely, and the ki can be released instantly. Ruahuo has now officially renamed the Great Fireball, Fire God's Hand, which can blast the hammer at medium and short range. The most important thing is that Little Vulcan also gives a high temperature immunity buff. Except for other people's fire style. Grandma no longer has to worry that he will be burned to death by her fire style. Uchiha brat, don't underestimate me. I don't know where the obsession came from. This young ninja turned pale with fright, but he still took out his kunai and bravely rushed towards Ruahuo. But the next second, chant. Another high-temperature fireball swept over, and the young ninja was about to get out of the way, but found that his body could no longer move. Genjutsu. The young ninja finally reacted, but it was too late. Boom. If the fire knocks people out with a knife, there will be no fireballs, it's just Sharingan Genjutsu. Courage is commendable, but the will of fire is a bit weak. Go back and practice for a few more years. You are not worthy of the Chunin level will of fire now. Ruahuo was so cool that he declared the winner first. Clicking off the crystal without GG appears as like walking in brocade at night. Then he searched the young man's body, and in addition to some ninja tools, he also got a scroll of Earth. In this shortened Chunin assessment, the second game only had Heaven and Earth scrolls, but no people. And what he got in his hand happened to be the scroll of Heaven. It seems like we can save a meal group. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows, made symbolic seals with his hands, and chanted. A fire dragon appeared out of thin air. The fire dragon crawled at Ruahuo's feet. Ruahuo took off his shoes, rolled up his trouser legs, and then stepped up like a king of fire. I want Wakaka to rank all the ninjutsu I have learned in the past 2 months. Then this fire, water, dragon bullet must be the number one in Ruahuo's heart. Let's not talk about power or anything. At least this technique can make Ruahuo take off. It's a pity that clothes and shoes are not immune to high temperatures. Ruahuo rode the fire dragon into the sky and flew towards the central tower. Wherever it passed, little sparks were left behind, falling into the forest, and soon wisps of black smoke rose up. Ruahuo glanced condescendingly. Generally speaking, the entire forest of death is relatively quiet. Everyone is very cautious. Only small-scale battles broke out in some places. Then let's end this boring assessment. Ruahuo raised his fingers again. Plan B. Forced promotion plan, start. Personal skills. 48. Main skill 1, C, fire style great fireball technique. Click to view the main skill characteristics. Fire style ninjutsu. Fire style dragon flame singing jutsu. Fire style dragon flame jutsu. Fire style great fire extinguishing. Click to view. Water style ninjutsu released with fire style water style fire bullet jutsu, water style fire prison jutsu, water style fire dragon bullet jutsu. Click to view. Earth style ninjutsu released in fire style earth style fire land return, earth style yellow springs ninjutsu, earth style fire dragon bullet jutsu. Click to view. Lightning style ninjutsu released in fire style. Looking at the virtual interface in front of him, Ruahuo began to choose the skills to clear the field next. Setting fire to a mountain is definitely immoral, and it is even illegal. It will be condemned by conscience and morality, and it will lead to entering a dark room. Third-generation people cannot go to college or take the high-speed rail. But this is the ninja world. The seniors just said this. This is the Chunin examination, and the examination room is like a battlefield. The battlefield is a matter of life and death, and safety comes first in exams. From the perspective of emergency avoidance, what's the coolest way to burn it? Ruahuo swept over each skill one by one. Because of the characteristics of Little Fire God, all escape techniques have become fire style, and there are bound to be many overlapping functions of ninjutsu. For example, the difference between the range of wind escape and fire style, wind escape great breakthrough, and fire style great fire extinguishing is the amount of chakra. But mutation ninjutsu also has advantages of mutation ninjutsu. Using fire style to activate other escape techniques can retain certain characteristics. This is a hidden entry. For example, the cutting properties of wind style, the explosive speed of lightning style, the controllability of water style, and the ninjutsu concentration of earth style. Although not too much is retained, at most it is an extra layer of buff. But activating other ninjutsu with fire style does have the feeling of combining ninjutsu, even the blood successor limit. And the higher the ninjutsu level, the better the effect. For example, the technique Ruahuo chose now. From the second generation project, the scroll was handed over to him through Orochimaru. He pretended not to learn it at the time, but now he uses it, which is regarded as drawing an open card from a dozen whole cards. Ruahuo raised his fingers, raised his head to the sky, and spit out a ball of high concentration flames. Fire style heavenly cry. The high temperature flame ball came into the air, and then quickly split into tiny sparks, which hit the ground with scorching heat, like streaks of fire raining down. Fire rained down on the forest. The weather is dry, and even a little spark may cause a fire. But now, the sky is filled with fire and rain. This is the benefit of studying under Orochimaru. From Orochimaru to third generation, from third generation to second generation. This is the inheritance of ninjutsu, and it is the alternation of the will of fire. Bursts of black smoke soon rose, and within the scope of the fire rain, trees began to burst into flames. The resin and flames blended perfectly. In a moment, a sea of fire rose around the tower. The range is still not enough. If the 2 fingers of fire have not fallen, chakra continues to mobilize. Fire style, it's not like it doesn't have high range, wide area techniques. Like Uchiha Madara, who destroyed the Ninja Alliance with a single hand of fire. This is the representative masterpiece of fire style AoE. But that requires more chakra. With the consumption reduction and power increase of Little Fire God, if Ruahuo only activates fire style, he can also make a guest appearance as a Senju clan member. But that's too arrogant, and without Susanna on, I always feel that the flavor is missing. It's better to keep a low profile for now. Fire style Fire Dragon Bullet Technique. Ode. A flaming dragon head condenses in the air, with only the dragon head but no body. It is a mutated version of Earth-style Earth Dragon Bullet in the Dragon Character Series ninjutsu. This is also a technical problem that Ruahuo has not yet been able to overcome. Water Dragon Bullet, Fire Dragon Bullet, and Earth Dragon Bullet can theoretically be integrated. After all, they are all fire style now. According to Ruahuo's idea, the ideal form of these 3 techniques should be taking off with water dragon bombs, and using earth dragon bombs to launch fire dragons, which can simulate the H20. But his current chakra control is not yet in place, and the bonus of the double Magatama is still not enough. After obtaining Chunin's Will of Fire, you can try it. Now, I can only make do, use the howitzer first, and play with the parabola. Well, I'm at the origin, and the current fire range is about 0.100 meters. So if you want to achieve the effect, you have to shoot at least 120 meters. Ruahuo gave a thumbs up and blinked back and forth to measure the distance. 0, 100, 0, why considering the gravity factor, then the central axis should be moved forward and set at 60, y2. The height of my tower is about 10 meters, so this angle. The former head teacher of the 3rd grade of junior high school seemed to appear before his eyes. Taking his triangle, he drew a function graph on the blackboard. After estimation, the conventional range of combined fire Earth Dragon bullets is up to 20 meters. If the fire gets the cannonball and wants to reach the designated position through the inertial parabola in the second half, it is basically impossible. But there are always more solutions than difficulties. Ruahuo soon thought that he could use a second shot to accurately hit the first shell and provide it with additional kinetic energy. This increases the upper limit of launch height and lengthens the parabolic distance. The difficulty is not too high. With Sharingan ranging, it is no different from shuriken throwing. But considering that this process may not be domineering enough, it's better to learn from Big Wolf and be a pragmatic person. Ruahuo then removed the Fire Earth Dragon Bullet and summoned the Fire Water Dragon Bullet. Ruahuo stepped on the dragon's head again and flew into the sky. Fire-style Dragon Flame Technique. Ode. Ruahuo first flew around the tower, holding his shoes in one hand, and used high-temperature flames to create an absolutely high-temperature zone. This shouldn't be considered arrogant, right? After all, I'm just afraid that others will pass the level secretly. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows, controlled the fire dragon to fly forward, flew over the fire zone, and then sprayed fire style wildly below. After 2 minutes of Ruahuo's efforts, the fire became much stronger. There were also unlucky people who tried to block people in the tower from the beginning, but before they even got there, they found that the tower was surrounded by flames. I wanted to retreat, but found that the sky behind me was filled with fire. There were also water-style ninjas among these unlucky ones, but after seeing the sea of fire that was like a natural disaster, they still opened the scroll decisively. Among them is Matt Day's team. This guy is definitely poisonous. Ruahuo noticed the eliminated Matt Dai and hated the iron. He was ready to let Matt Dai pass the level, so how could he still be eliminated? As expected of 10,000 years genin, he couldn't help him even if he wanted to. But it seems that this is not the way to go. Ruahuo was flying in the air and frowned gradually as he watched the guys retreating to the edge of the forest one by one. You can't just look for them one by one, right? So he set his sights on the tower again. As long as I meet the customs clearance conditions and directly destroy this place again. That should be enough, right? Ruahuo thought so. He did the same. Then, as ninjas rushed into the examination room one after another water-style ninjutsu rushed towards the fire. This Chunin assessment was urgently stopped. There is a fire in the southwest that is about to spread. The second team will be on top first and use wind release to blow it back to me first. Northeast. The fifth team has used earth style to create an isolation zone, put out the fire as soon as possible. Captain. There is the last team hiding underwater in the middle of the forest river. Nani. The rescue team is on standby. The rest of the people are following me. Did the ninja from the enemy village sneak in? Everyone, please work harder to protect our forest. Konoha, which has the highest vegetation coverage rate in the ninja world, has its own emergency fire squad. Mainly composed of water-style ninjas, supplemented by wind-release ninjas and earth-style ninjas, it is equipped with a medical team and an emergency search and rescue team. It is worth mentioning that there are also traces of Hyuga in the fire squad. Although ninjutsu is not used, the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan can very well detect the location of trapped persons, and the advanced Gentle Fist Kaiden can also deal with some emergency situations. These were things Ruahuo didn't know before. So when third generation was introducing this knowledge to him, he listened very carefully. I understand Grandpa Hokage. The Konoha Fire Department, like the Konoha Security Department, is a very reliable department. They are all worth learning from. Official Ruahuo said seriously. No one in the fire squad would have thought that this fire that could ignite the entire Konoha accidentally came from the little boy in Hokage's office. Real little boy. Quote. Third generation glanced at the pipe on the table, and now he really wanted to take a long drag. Xiao Ruahuo, can you tell Grandpa why you want to create a fire? Third generation still restrained his craving for cigarettes. He valued the education of the little guy in front of him more than this momentary relief. When a child masters extraordinary power, if he is not taught properly, a disaster like today will definitely not be the last time. Fire. What fire? Ruahuo widened his confused eyes. Grandpa Hokage, what are you talking about? Looking at those clear and innocent eyes, third generation hesitated for a moment and pointed to the thick black smoke in the distance outside the window. During the exam, you used fire style to burn down a large forest. The firefighting class and the Jonin Chunin class were basically dispatched, but the fire has not been put out yet. Xiao Ruahuo, your behavior is very dangerous. Somehow, Danzo's previous words came back to the third generation's mind. He dares to cheat today, and tomorrow he dares to steal Konoha secrets. Today this little guy dares to set fire to the mountain. If he doesn't educate him well, then in the future, third generation misses his disciples a little bit. At least when Orochimaru was in the village, the kid had always been normal. But those two seniors told me that the examination room is the battlefield. Ruahuo looked serious. Grandpa Hokage, did I overestimate them? But I have left them room to escape. Quote. Third generation was choked. Room to escape. If I hadn't stopped the assessment in time and asked the rescue team to quickly go to support, the fire would have reached my office now. You call this an escape space? Where to escape? Back to Konoha. And the most depressing thing for third generation is, this little guy really wasn't lying. He could also clearly see Ruahuo's performance in the examination room. If it is really about destruction, then based on Orochimaru's assessment of Wakahui's strength, this little guy will definitely be able to do even more outrageous things. But why did you destroy the assessment endpoint again? Third generation said, rubbing his eyebrows. Because I don't want them to advance. Ruahuo said matter-of-factly, although it's not a real battlefield, I can't let my opponents live too comfortably. They are all my seniors, and I can't really hurt them, so I can only eliminate them. Is there something wrong? Nothing wrong. We can't kill all the candidates, right? Quote. The The third generation was stunned for a moment, and looked into those big clear eyes. In a daze, he seemed to see Danzo in his youth. At that time, Danzo still had a pair of clear and bright eyes, and he was very serious and unsmiling. He would always say dangerous things seriously and take action. Third generation even has a ridiculous idea in mind right now. Wakahuo seems to be quite similar to Danzo. Third generation took a deep breath. Calm down, this little guy is actually not wrong at all. Even if the examination room is not a battlefield, the candidates must be opponents. Ruahuo's behavior seems excessive. It is indeed excessive, but his starting point is not wrong. On the contrary, if this was really on the battlefield, no one in the village would criticize Ruahuo's actions except the timid enemies. This little guy seems to be quite suitable for the battlefield. It's a pity that Ruahuo can't hear it. Otherwise, he would definitely give third generation a thumbs up and then announce on the spot. That's right, I was born to be a battlefield, and I have regarded Konoha as a battlefield. Call. After thinking about it, third generation finally let out a sigh of relief. This child's thoughts are special. It's not dangerous, but it's too upright. This is not a bad thing. After all, he is still young, and with the guidance of his teachers and family, he can always take the right path. But the key is that this child has extraordinary abilities and amazing talents. He has already mastered powerful power at a young age. There are also special blood inheritance limits. This gives me a headache. But it's okay. He also has a group of old guys who can discuss how to deal with it next. He also has an excellent disciple who can restrain this little guy. As for Konoha's loss this time, that kid Fugaku should be able to understand, right? You go back first, Xiao Ruahuo. Third generation was exhausted and waved his hands. Have a good rest. Next. Third generation paused. Although the Chunin assessment was suspended, according to the rules. This kid seems to have no opponent in the third assessment. Grandpa Hokage, when can I wear Chunin's vest? I have already promised my grandma. Ruahuo will definitely not give third generation a chance to be careless. He is also waiting to open the 3 Magatama and quickly study his dragon's roar technique. Step on the fire dragon and blast the enemy wildly. It's exciting just thinking about it. By the way, when can I find a way to get this wood style? He is an Uchiha, so it seems hard to bring this up, right? How about, please Orochimaru? But if you can ask Orochimaru, then those other forbidden arts, such as Flying Thunder God and so on, seem to be very delicious too. I still need to discuss this with the other elders, Xiao Ruahuo. The third generation project did not give a clear answer in the end. Just go back first and wait for the notification. If the fire waits for a week. This week, he frequently went to Konoha's security department to ask for advice on genjutsu. But Fugaku rarely appeared. He only saw Fugaku a few times, and found that he suddenly became very tired. His whole person had no energy, he was very haggard, and he felt that his body was hollowed out. And I often hesitate to speak, not knowing exactly what happened. Until a week later, Ruahuo received the notice to participate in the third assessment. And on this day, Orochimaru is back to Konoha Cemetery. The third ninja war has just broken out, and the list of heroes in Konoha has grown a lot. Among them are all of Orochimaru's subordinates who performed the mission this time. A total of 6 people were killed in action. Although this S-class mission was successfully completed, the price was also very heavy. Orochimaru is back, but he was the only one who came back. Life is fragile, Lord Ruahuo. In front of the tombstone, Orochimaru whispered. Those who came to mourn were not only Orochimaru and his master and apprentice, but also the third generation and relatives and friends of the victims. The atmosphere is a bit sad. But Wakahara has reason to suspect that Orochimaru came to mourn this time just to show off in front of the third generation. I can feel their will of fire, sensei. After all, he is Orochimaru's disciple, and Wakahuo is also very knowledgeable in this aspect. They sacrificed themselves for the future of Konoha. I will take the fire will of my seniors and become a qualified Chunin. Orochimaru smiled and put his hand on Ruahuo's shoulder. The reason why I didn't touch my head is because Ruahuo will 100% hide. At noon, Chunin takes the final assessment. There is a shady secret in any assessment, and the Chunin assessment is no exception. Looking at the familiar faces and remembering the funeral in the morning, Ruahuo suddenly understood the third generation project a little bit. The fighting on the front line became increasingly tense. Although Konoha's war reserves are still sufficient at this stage, they have to be considered for the near future. Some of these genin candidates do have Chunin abilities. Although it should be eliminated according to the rules, the makers of this rule obviously need more Chunin to appear. So how did Mad Dai offend third generation? Ruahuo complained after scanning around, but couldn't see Mad Dai's figure. Being able to defeat the 7 ninja swordsmen into the 3 lucky treasures in the future, does he really not even have the qualifications to be a Chunin without opening the 8 gates? Let him be. First match. Uchiha, yes, Hyuga Aokawa. Candidates are in place. When Ruahuo walked into the examination room, his opponent was a 12 or 13-year-old Hyuga tribesman. There is no name for this guy in the original work, so he is probably just a miscellaneous fish. But having come to this point, in order to ensure that Chunin's qualifications were foolproof, Ruahuo decided to let some water go. Show more of your combat IQ and the will of Konoha's fire to reassure the third generation. If fire forms the seal of opposition. Hyuga Qingchuan also formed the seal of opposition, and his tone was so cold that he said cruel words, I have finally waited for this moment. Although the Patriarch has repeatedly ordered me not to have a private fight with you, this is the Chunin assessment after all. So no matter what I do next, the Patriarch will not care about me, Uchiha Ruahuo. Quote. Ruahuo frowned, are you serious? Could it be that the fire in the Forest of Death also inspired your Hyuga fire will? Do you have to fight to the death with Uchiha? However, Wakahara soon understood the reason for Hyuga Aokawa's hostility. My poor brother still can't get out of bed. As a brother, he can't do anything. You can't understand how I feel. Quote. Ruahuo shrugged. Actually. You can spend more time with him. Start. The examiner ordered, ending the harsh talk session, and then withdrew from the fighting area. Byakugan. Hyuga Qingchuan immediately entered the fighting state, with dense veins around his eyes, and attacked Wakahuo with all his strength. Ruahuo was not careless. He knew that this assessment was all artificially controlled, including the results and the opponents. In other words, Hyuga Aokawa was specially assigned to him by the third generation project. Twice the age difference, but also has a strong bloodline limit, and a powerful gentle fist. From where Ruahuo looks, this guy should be able to take a beating. Fire style great fireball technique. Fire God's fist. If the fire spurts out flames, turns into a fist, and hits Hyuga Qingchuan. This kid's fire style. Has become stronger again. Fugaku, who was intertwined with his wife in the stands, praised. Fugaku had never seen the great fireball change its form like this before. But it suits Wakaho-kun's age, hubby. Makoto, who was already pregnant, said with a gentle smile, don't you think this technique is cute? Haha, Fugaku smiled, is it cute? His opponent won't think so. On a high platform in the distance, third generation also made similar comments. He's still a child after all, but his ability to control ninjutsu's form is really amazing. He's truly a genius. Wakao-kun's talent in fire-style ninjutsu may be beyond our knowledge, sensei. Orochimaru, standing behind the third generation, said in a hoarse voice, after discovering his special ability, I have repeatedly overestimated his talent. But it turns out that the current Ruahuo-jun is still far from fully developing his talents. Looking at the teacher's thoughtful expression out of the corner of his eye, Orochimaru smiled softly. He is not the only one who underestimates Lord Ruahuo's talent, isn't it even the teacher? Otherwise, we wouldn't have tried to let this child of the Hyuga clan use gentle fist to defeat Wakahara-kun. It is true that under the age limit, physical skills and chakra capacity may be Ruahuo's only shortcomings now. But how can age cover the child's blazing light, which is as hot as a blazing flame? Boom! The flaming giant fist hit the ground, and Hyuga Qingchuan had already retreated to the edge of the examination room. This should be the limit distance of your technique, right? Hyuga Qingchuan has a solemn expression and cannot get close to Uchiha Ruahuo, and his strength will not be fully utilized to the greatest extent. But Hyuga Qingchuan obviously thought too much. As long as my actions are reasonable, it should be fine, right? Ruahuo raised his eyebrows. Although the final assessment is an elimination system, winning or losing is not the key to determining whether one can become a chunin. But winning is definitely better than losing, but you have to win with distinction and glory. Then let's start the show. Ruahuo raised his 2 fingers, fire style fire, earth dragon bullet technique. A flaming dragon head condensed on the side of Wakahui, opened its bloody mouth, and then sprayed a fire bomb towards Hyuga Qingchuan. Chug tug tug tug. Not good. Hyuga Qingchuan's expression condensed. He took a deep breath, and put his hands on the chakra. Gentle fist. 8 trigrams palms. Bang 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 bang. The first batch of fire bombs were chopped down by Hyuga Qingchuan one after another. But this is not over yet. The second batch of attacks has been put in place, and this time it is more intensive, with twice the number as before. 8 trigrams 16 palms. Hyuga Qingchuan's movements are standard, his chakra is smooth, and he chops again with gentle fist. This Hyuga has already lost. Fugaku shook his head in the stands. Although I don't know why Ruikawa was so cautious this time, in Fugaku's eyes, Hyuga Aokawa had already lost the moment he was forced back by the great fireball at the beginning. Of course, even if Hyuga Aokawa can get close, Fugaku doesn't think Wakaka will lose. This guy's fire style has such a temperature that the Uchiha clan has to pay nearly 1,000,000 ryo in compensation. How can it be something that only Hyuga can withstand? 8 trigrams 32 palms. Bang 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 bang. Hyuga Qingchuan is still waving his palms, and this time he hits exactly 32 fireballs. Ha! Hyuga Qingchuan breathed heavily. The gentle fist method is supposed to hit the enemy's acupoints so that the enemy cannot use chakra. He has not yet mastered the more powerful 64 palms, and 32 palms is the limit. But Uchiha Wakohu's chakra should be almost used up, right? Hyuga Qingchuan frowned. Where are the people? Why is there no one in the entire examination room except the examiner and a pair of shoes? Behind you. Hyuga Qingchuan was shocked and turned around suddenly, only to find that there was only a wall behind him. Looking back, he found that the examiner was raising his head with a shocked expression, and there was a silence in the audience. What happened? Hyuga Qingchuan raised his head, his expression gradually dull. It was a fire dragon burning with blazing flames, hovering in the air, so dazzling and hot. The huge dragon head stared at him coldly. Just looking at it made people palpitate. And on top of the fire dragon's head, the barefoot young man raised his fingers with an expression of disdain on his face. Well, Ruahuo stepped on the fire dragon and looked helplessly at the 3rd generation in the distance. Who said I only know fire style? I'm so frustrated. Is it time to give that Chunin vest to me? Once upon a time, in the Warring States period before Konoha was established, fire style was once synonymous with Uchiha. Uchiha, who possesses the blood succession limit Sharingan, turns many enemies into ashes with her powerful fire style on the battlefield. In the huge ninja world, only the Senju clan can contend with it. Later, Uchiha and Senju put aside their prejudices and established Konoha together. The ninja world ushered in a new ninja village system, and ninjas also ushered in a new living environment. As time goes by, Konoha has experienced 2 ninja wars, and the 3rd ninja war just started not long ago. The alternation of old and new, ancient, powerful, Konoha's wealthy family, these are still Uchiha's labels. But Uchiha, who has moved to Konoha several times, has suddenly become the role of Konoha's guard. And to this day, when the fire dragon hovered over the examination room, when the Uchiha boy raised his fingers, he seemed to be hesitating whether to burn his opponent to death. How can only Hyuga Aokawa feel the fear that our ancestors had towards the Uchiha clan that sleeps deep in their souls? Fire style. Can it still be used like this? An Akamiki tribesman finally couldn't restrain his inner shock, and even forgot about the potato chips in his hand, his voice trembled. As this Uchiha, Fugaku did not express any words of shock and seemed calm, but Makoto, whose fingers were intertwined with him next to him, could feel her husband's excitement the most. He gently stroked his belly and said, "My child, you have a very powerful big brother." Orochimaru, wearing a hat, 3rd generation, who had witnessed Ruahuo's move in a crystal ball, took a puff of cigarette, but his old face did not show much joy. No one knows what the old man is thinking, including Orochimaru, who is closest to him. In the second Chunin assessment, this kid once used this technique to circle around the forest of death and ignited a large forest with fire style. I had no choice but to stop the assessment. That fire, it took the rescue team a full 3 hours to extinguish it. I've heard about it, sensei. Orochimaru put a serious tone on his tone. This is my negligence. I still underestimated this child's talent. His current strength has far exceeded the limit that Chunin can withstand. I should have expected it. Orochimaru took the responsibility on himself. But how can the third generation project pursue it? Not to mention that Uchiha has already borne Konoha's losses this time, and third generation's current purpose is not to pursue accountability. Another talented Uchiha. Danzo's worries are not unreasonable, but he is still more inclined to follow the teacher's approach. Keep this child with you from now on, Orochimaru, don't forget my instructions to you. Orochimaru smiled slightly. I understand, sensei. The key to reconciliation between Uchiha and Konoha. Orochimaru has not forgotten this child's dream that day. Become the clan leader, protect Konoha, go to the ninja world, and become bigger and stronger. In Orochimaru's opinion, the teacher's worries are undoubtedly unnecessary. The kid hasn't been exposed to those things yet. The top management of Konoha only needs to give up some prejudices, so why do they need any bridges? In a dark corner, Danzo stared at the figure coldly. The sun could not shine on the old man, and no one could see his expression clearly. Sir Elder, the bug team has arrived and intercepted White Fang's emergency call for help. A General Nin appeared, bent down, and whispered the report. Inform the bug squad to leave the battlefield, remain silent, and prepare to carry out the strangulation mission against Uchiha. Danzo still stared at the young man above the examination room and continued. Give the information about Uchiha Wakaki to those rats hiding in Konoha and ensure that they can be sent back to their respective villages. If the plan fails, I will also ensure that this brat will die in attacks from other ninja villages. Yes, the root ninja disappeared. Danzo's fingers tapped the armrest rhythmically. Although he had prepared a lot in advance, he still felt that such an action was not safe. The talent of that Uchiha kid is clearly evident. Danzo was born in an era guarded by the first generation. In that era, there was still the remaining power of Shira in the ninja world. Although I don't know if this Uchiha kid is qualified to be compared with Uchiha Madara. But Danzo didn't want to, and didn't dare to let time verify. What if this brat could become the second Uchiha Madara? In Konoha right now, there is no second first generation that can compete with it. It would be best if Orochimaru is willing to cooperate. Danzo closed his eyes and thought about the possibility of this matter. According to his understanding of monkeys, it is absolutely impossible for the position of fourth Hokage to be passed on to Orochimaru. Even if Tsunade has failed to recover since the Second Ninja War and Jiraiya has no intention of succeeding the Hokage, once a more suitable candidate is available, the monkey will not consider Orochimaru. This guy is too ambitious. But if this ambition can be used, maybe. Hyuga Qingchuan ultimately failed to avenge his beloved brother. The examiner announced the winner. But Hyuga Qingchuan is indeed the most powerful among these candidates. After that, Ruahuo had a bye in the semifinals. Then I met an opponent who gave up on his own initiative and entered the finals without even moving his butt. But just as he was getting ready to go through another process, his final opponent was too exhausted in the semifinals. Chakra and physical strength were both exhausted, so he gave up the decisive battle. Ruahuo won the first place in this way without even breaking a sweat and felt lonely participating. At this point, the Chunin assessment is declared over. The overall time of this assessment will be shorter. If there are no urgent changes to the rules and several candidates are left in other ways, it can actually be shorter. But the scene of Ruakata standing on a fire dragon and appearing in the sky above the examination room was passed down by the Konoha ninjas in the audience. We can't talk about it with gusto, but they all expressed their admiration for the emergence of such a genius in Uchiha. Third generation finally announced a total of 4 people who have been promoted to Chunin. There is Ruahuo, and there are 2 civilian ninjas who performed well in the semifinals. And the last one turned out to be Wakahuo's opponent in the first round, Hyuga Aokawa. Well, I am proud enough to be able to hold on, to ninjutsu in the hands of Ruohuo. As for what Hyuga Qingchuan himself would think, Ruohuo didn't bother to guess because he had more important things to do now. Ding. Family mission B promoted to Konoha Chunin. Square root. Get B-level family reward, Indra Chakra. Indra Chakra. Your chakra will be blessed by Indra, the ancestor of ninjutsu, and gain the power of reincarnation, Yin. Power of Samsara Yin. Your spiritual energy is greatly improved. When you obtain the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and power of Samsara Yang, you can obtain the Eye of Six Paths. You have obtained the B-level main skill slot 1. The personal attributes interface has been unlocked. Click to view. Your Sharingan has evolved into a 3 Magatama Sharingan. Quote. Ruohuo finished digesting the information. Did something terrible happen? After receiving the vest, Ruohuo sat on a bench in the park not far from the Hokage building and read the system prompts again. Is it really Indra Chakra? Take another look and feel it. I feel a lot more energetic. Is this Indra Chakra? Feeling it carefully again, Ruohuo's expression gradually became weird. Indra Chakra, that's it. Indeed, except for the initial feeling, which was like mustard rushing to my head, nothing really seemed to have changed. Shouldn't I just give you a reincarnation eye synthesis coupon? This is too. Ruohuo paused and suddenly realized, was he too greedy? Although it is not an immediate combat power reward, such late-stage props are often hard to come by. Okay, at least the reincarnation eye is in place. Quote. The battery life problem of the 3 Magatama Sharingan should be okay. Ruohuo still found the second hidden reward. As mental attributes improve, Sharingan will last longer. Ruohuo glanced at the follow-up rewards for other levels of tasks. B-level main skill slot. Ruohuo frowned, but still didn't rush to use it. Although he does have several powerful B-level mutant ninjutsu, according to Ruohuo's eyes, there is actually a more suitable one. I just haven't learned it yet. Now he is also a 3 Magatama Uchiha, and his copy attributes are full. It is not too late to wait any longer. Let's look at the attributes first. If you click on the personal attribute bar. Personal attributes. 3. Personal buff is not included. Physique 3, Strength C, Speed C, Recovery C, Overall Rating C, Genin. Spirit 4, Eye Power S, Genjutsu B+, Genjutsu Resistance B, Recovery B, Overall Rating A+, Elite Jonin. Ninjutsu 4, Chakra Reserve C+, Chakra Control A, Chakra Quality A, Fire, Saturation 100%. Yin, Saturation 100%, Seal B, Overall Rating A, Jonin. Overall Rating A, Special Jonin. It's just Special Jonin, that's better than Kakashi and Itachi. Ruohuo raised his eyebrows. The evaluation of the system is generally reasonable. But if the Little Vulcan buff is included, it's not a concept. Although his attributes are not improved, the minimum 90% normal consumption saving throw is equivalent to 10 times the amount of chakra he has obtained. Coupled with the 200% increase in power, if he saves more chakra, it will be doubled again. This is 100 times better. A guest appearance as Senju is not a problem at all. At least it needs to have an A+ rating, right? If you add it all together, you'll have, well, your physique is still weak. Physical attributes, limited by age, are indeed a bit weak. I don't know how Uchiha Madara practiced in those days. Chakra seemed to be inexhaustible, and Nine Tails, holding the bar, was at odds with Hashirama. They fought for several days and nights, but in the end they only lost one move. How about not saying that Hashirama and Madara are true love? If Madara goes all out and uses Danzo style to challenge Izanagi, winning or losing is really not certain. Congratulations, Lord Ruohuo. Orochimaru's voice suddenly appeared next to Wakaki. Ruohuo thought like a god, turned his head and glanced at Orochimaru, his eyes were completely unmoved. I looked at the mental attributes again. The Genjutsu ability, which has not yet been fully developed, has come to be plus due to the 3 Magatama Sharingan. Hello, teacher. Ruohuo responded and continued to think about things. Now that the 3 Magatama are in hand, as long as Anbu root is added, Mangekyo is not far away. Unlocking the personal attribute template allowed Ruohuo to roughly understand the system's calculation method. The current overall level of the Uchiha clan is A. It could be an A or it could be an A+. It doesn't matter, he will take action. If Hashirama's cells plus curse seal are used, he really won't be afraid. The key research and development of Hashirama cells and curse seals had to be entrusted to Orochimaru. And now Orochimaru. Come on, even if Orochimaru awakens on the spot, it will take at least 3 to 5 years to complete his research. So Ruahuo believes that we still have to start from the most basic. Let Uchiha develop his own strength, not only to restore his status during the Warring States period, but at least to restore the state at that time. You can only show off, but you don't have the strength to show off. At least he couldn't be killed by Obito and Itachi, right? Waiting for the end of the Third Ninja War, Fugaku opens his eyes and adds the triple pair of Mangekyo from the 3 CBD brothers. Once the family's strength reaches S level, it should be stable. This requires a certain say within the family. What are you thinking about? Wakahuo-kun. Seeing that Wakahuo fell silent again, Orochimaru asked curiously. Ruahuo glanced at Orochimaru and pursed his lips. I was thinking about challenging the Fugaku clan leader. Ruahuo said seriously and showed his 3 Magatama. I have obtained Chunin's Will of Fire, and it's time to have a showdown with Chief Fugaku. Indeed so. I still remember that Wakao-kun wanted to become a Chunin in order to challenge Fugaku-kun and become the clan leader, right? Orochimaru was only slightly shocked, then smiled slightly and regained his composure. After 2 months of contact, he has seen so many things in his students that he never dared to imagine before. 3 Magatama Sharingan, pretty normal, isn't it? As for Orochimaru's calmness, Wakahara is also very calm. I've prepared, teacher, I'll go when Obito is out of school, do you want to cheer for me? Speaking of Obito and Shisui, Chunin forgot to call these 2 little fans during the assessment, and felt that the cheers were missing. But I was in a hurry today. First I attended the funeral with Orochimaru, then turned around and went to the examination room. I didn't have time to call them. Then I'll make up for it later when I challenge Fugaku. He definitely won't lose anyway, after all, he can fly. But as to whether we can win, hard to say. He is not afraid of chakra reserves. With the blessing of Little Fire God, he only uses fire style, so he is not afraid of consumption. But otherwise, genjutsu, taijutsu, and many practical techniques. It doesn't matter, he can fly anyway. He has air control and is so arrogant. When Conan faced Jiraiya, he could fight and run away whenever he wanted, that's the reason. Ruahuo-kun, if you don't mind, you might as well listen to the teacher's advice. Orochimaru smiled gently, giving Ruahuo the feeling that he was now the second pillar. Teacher, please speak. Ruahuo was not afraid at all. If that doesn't work, you can challenge Sannin. He can fly anyway. The initiative lies with you, Lord Ruahuo. Orochimaru smiled and said, you can choose to challenge the clan leader at any time, and there is no need to rush. After all, Chief Fugaku is the one who possesses Jonin's Will of Fire. His Will of Fire is no weaker than that of Lord Wakaho. So the teacher suggested that Wakahara-kun might as well accumulate some more and wait until he obtains Jonin's Will of Fire before challenging him. Ruahuo fell silent, while secretly marking Orochimaru, awakening level 30%. In his mind, he suddenly remembered a certain old otaku. Let's just say, transplantation of wood-style cells is not without success. If Uchiha Madara's body is given to Orochimaru for study, this guy should be able to figure out the direction quickly, right? Take another 10,000 steps back. If only I could gain control of White Zetsu. So the teacher wants to help me submit my application for the Jonin assessment? Ruahuo asked. Just a suggestion, Lord Ruahuo. Orochimaru smiled and took out a scroll. Becoming a Jonin is not that simple. It requires a lot of mission experience. But the Will of Fire that can be obtained by becoming a Jonin is exactly what Wakaka-kun needs, isn't it? Ruahuo took the scroll. I opened it and took a look. It was a B-level rescue mission. Class B. That's not impossible. So by completing this mission, I can obtain Jonin's Will of Fire. Ruahuo held the scroll and asked again. I'm not in a rush to be the clan leader or anything like that. Although the leader of the Uchiha clan is not as good as the Hokage, at 7 years old, it is too abstract. Gaara next door Kazekage is still in his teens. In contrast, he was now more curious about Orochimaru's purpose. That's not true. Orochimaru shook his head. Becoming a Jonin is more demanding than passing the Chunin exam. In addition to the ability to independently complete high-risk tasks, the requirements for all aspects are very high. One mission is definitely not enough. But this mission will be the starting point for Wakaho-kun to become Jonin. That's it. Ruahuo nodded thoughtfully, then stood up and made a seal. Then let's set off quickly, teacher. Orochimaru was a little surprised now. Based on what he had learned about the child during this period, he had thought that Ruahuo would not be so easy to persuade. After all, Ruahuo has always been determined to challenge Fugaku and become the clan leader. He glanced vaguely in the direction of the Hokage building. Orochimaru was about to say something when he saw Wakahuo's shadow clone appear and said with Wakahuo's thoughts for a second. I'm going to inform my grandma and brother. Do you want to issue a declaration of war to Chief Fugaku first? Of course, Ruahuo said seriously, rescuing people is a big deal. Wait until I complete the task first and then challenge the Fugaku clan leader when I come back. Shadow Clone nodded. Okay, then I will let Chief Fugaku prepare and practice hard, so that he can strive to be in the best condition to welcome you. Shadow Clone ran away expressionlessly. Wakahui looked at Orochimaru. Every minute and every second of the rescue time is precious, so let's set off as soon as possible, teacher. Orochimaru hesitated for a moment, but still smiled and agreed, okay. In the crystal ball, Orochimaru and Wakahui had already started heading towards the exit of the village. Only then did third generation look at the three elders. You have also seen that Orochimaru did not give any hints throughout the whole process, but this child still chose to set out for the rescue as soon as he received the mission. I said, although Ruahuo is still young, his will of fire is very strong. Third generation slowly loaded the pipe with tobacco leaves, the chakra condensed into a flame on his fingertips, lit it, and took a beautiful sip. But this kid's interpretation of the will of fire seems unusual, right? Kaharu frowned and said, what Chunin Jonin? That sounds too ridiculous. Because I didn't understand it, I thought it was ridiculous. This is the normal thinking of a superior person. Mito Kadoyan understood. Maybe it's a tacit understanding between Orochimaru and this child. Just like when a child completes a goal, the parents give rewards or something. I have also taught the children at home in this way. Uchiha Wakaki is too young after all, so it is quite normal for Orochimaru to do this. After going to bed, Kaharu frowned, then will Orochimaru use this tacit understanding to hint at Uchiha Wakaki? Kaharu, third generation knocked on the table lightly and interrupted, you are a little worried. After saying that, he felt a little weird again and looked at Danzo. Danzo didn't say a word today. He squinted his eyes slightly and closed his eyes to rest since he entered the office. He was too quiet. Sensing the third generation's gaze, Danzo half opened his eyes and said coldly, my attitude has not changed from the beginning. No member of the Uchiha clan is qualified to be promoted to Chunin, especially this kid who cheated to pass the test. He also severely damaged the examination room during the second examination, almost causing harm to Konoha. Uchiha like this, my suggestion is to take back Chunin's qualifications, at least let him return to the Konoha security department, and keep him under surveillance to prevent. That's enough, Danzo. Third generation interrupted with a slightly raised voice, you're too extreme. This is my way of doing things, and this is also the original intention of establishing the route. Danzo stood up directly and looked at the third generation with cold eyes, monkey. Uchiha is different from Senju, you will regret it sooner or later. Orochimaru and Wakahui set off directly, but stopped suddenly shortly after leaving Konoha. Three masked ninjas caught up. Lord Orochimaru, these are the supplies you just requested. A ninja presented a space-time scroll with both hands. Thank you for your hard work. Let's go back first. We don't need too many people for this mission. Yes, Orochimaru was still attentive and used his clone to inform his subordinates when they set off to deliver equipment. This way you don't waste time, and you don't have to go to the battlefield barefoot. The time and space scrolls are full of ninja tools, long swords, kunai shurikens, and flashing smoke detonators. There are also some soldiers' grain pills and plums used for promoting body fluids wrapped in wax paper. They are of good quality and large in quantity. They are the best choice for traveling as a monk and killing people. The quantity is neither too much nor too little, enough for 2 people. No matter what the task is, preparation is very important, Lord Ruahuo. Orochimaru distributed equipment to Wakahui while teaching. As you said, every minute and every second of rescue time is precious, but if the mission fails due to insufficient preparation, then the time gained will be in vain. Quote, I understand, teacher. If Huo keeps putting things into his ninja bag, he will most likely not need them, but he can sell them for money. He now has an elder and a younger child at home, and in the future, whether he wants to change houses, marry a wife and have children, or lead his tribe to rebel, all these will require money. It would be great if I could find an investor. Ruahuo thought to himself. And it can't be someone from the village, it's better to be a wandering guy like Kakuzu. Third generation's purpose of surveillance is too shameless. Regarding Orochimaru's anomaly today, Wakahara made a little evaluation before. It was found that the lying and deception index was less than 30%. In addition to the promotion of the will of fire theory, proposed by Ruohuo himself, Orochimaru seemed to be giving him suggestions. No flaws or purpose can be seen. Combined with the sight that he vaguely noticed at the moment when he showed his 3 Magatama. Ruohuo has reason to suspect that this mission is most likely a test of the third generation's purpose. After all, rescue missions like this can best reflect a person's moral character. That's why Ruohuo set off in such a hurry. What stands out is that he has excellent moral character. Isn't it just a rescue mission? He is the successor of the Will of Fire, so he is not afraid at all. What a coincidence. Orochimaru thought so too. Just after completing an S-level mission, he was given a B-level rescue mission. Although the teacher was right on the surface, he asked him to take this opportunity to educate the child Ruahuo. But how could Orochimaru not know that the teacher was a warning to him for having sacrificed 6 Konoha ninjas in his previous mission? Just a B-level rescue mission. I just try to bring people back to Konoha alive, what can be difficult? After crossing this forest, we are about to leave the border of the country of fire, Lord Ruahuo. Let's rest for a while. The leaves blocked a lot of moonlight, and the dense forest was completely dark. The evening wind occasionally blew over the forest, causing a rustling sound. Teacher, don't move around here. I'll come back as soon as I go. Ruahuo disappeared with a whoosh. The surroundings were pitch black, but Ruohuo was not lacking in vitamin A, and Sharingan's vision enhancement allowed him to maintain sufficient mobility in the dark. The closer we get to the border, the less human presence there is, and the forest is full of wild game, and Ruohuo can't wait any longer. Whoosh. With one shot of shuriken, an unlucky hare reports to the Pure Land. Ruohuo dealt with Tutu neatly, but just when he was hesitating whether to braze or beg for flowers, a sudden change occurred. Call out. It was a Chinbon shot hidden in the dark night, piercing the air without making too much sound, and headed straight for Ruohuo's neck. Does this rabbit have any accomplices? Ruohuo was keenly aware of the danger, and Sanmagatama quickly locked on the Chinbon, lifted the rabbit and blocked it. Puff. Chinbon penetrated 3/3 of the meat, but it was rabbit meat. Ruohuo noticed that the green color of Chinbon's pierced part was obviously highly poisonous. This rabbit is obviously inedible. I will avenge you. Ruohuo stood up and Sharingan locked the direction of Chinbon's shot. This is obviously an encounter, and the enemy is hidden and we're clear. The designated location for the mission is within the Kingdom of Earth. And where they are now is the border between the 3 countries of fire, rain and earth, and the enemy is likely to come from these 3 countries. So which ninja will it be? Reason tells Ruohuo that the probability of the enemy Iwagaker's identity is relatively high. Because the Land of Rain had little role in the Third Ninja War, and the appearance of Iwagaker was constantly harassing Konoha's defense line. In addition, they didn't notice any signs of being followed along the way, so there was a high probability that the attacker would not be one of their own. But intuition told Ruohuo, he has shown so much talent in Konoha one after another that some rats in the gutter should be unable to sit still. While thinking, the enemy's second wave of offensive has arrived. Whoosh 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 whoosh. One shuriken after another pierced the air, many of which were kunai connected to the detonating talisman. They were shot from all directions. The enemy had obviously surrounded him. So many people. If Ruohuo frowned, he could catch a hare and still encounter this battle. Fire-style fire formation wall. If the two seals of fire activate ninjutsu, flames will be sprayed out from the mouth encircled in a circle, quickly spraying an airtight wall of fire all around. This is AB level defensive water style. If activated with fire style, the defense will inevitably be weaker than a quality water style. But if the fire has found a solution, it is to let the flames flow like water, replace mass with kinetic energy, and strengthen the defense. Puff 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 puff. The fire array blocked the shurikens from all directions, and even the gap caused by the explosion of the detonating talisman was quickly filled by the flowing flames. Ruahuo is very satisfied with the effect. Facts have proved that with the high temperature immunity of Little Fire God, the fire style, which is famous for its power, can also have the ability to defend. It's a pity that clothes are not immune to high temperatures. Otherwise, we can just use the fire prison technique and save some chakra. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows. At the same time, the enemy also came to kill him. Wind escape great breakthrough. Loud shouts sounded from 3 directions at the same time, followed by a blinding wind that swept in. This is to blow Ruohuo's wall of fire directly into Ruohuo's face. If the fire can ignore the high temperature, he can ignore the clothes for the time being, but he is not immune to the impact of the wind escape, and he also has to consider the suffocation effect. And Ruahuo's solution was simple and crude. Fire-style fire dragon bullet. The fire dragon quickly condensed under his feet, directly lifting Ruahuo into the sky. Judging from the trajectory of the shuriken launches, there are at least 6 enemies, and 3 of them can use wind escape. Could they be Sunagaku's people? Ruohuo went up to the sky, his brows furrowed, and he was both Duchinban and Feng Dun. It was hard not to think of that. But Wakagaku soon gave up on this idea. Now Sunagaku has just lost the 3rd generation case cage. The entire defense line is in chaos because he is looking for his own case cage. Plus Kumogaku's attack, how can he have time to cause trouble for Konoha? It can't be a ninja from the land of rain. Ruahuo muttered, looking at the forest where the fire had spread under his feet. He believed his intuitive judgment more and more. Although there is no rule saying that Iwagakure ninjas cannot use wind escape. But compared to the identity of this team as invaders, Ruahuo still prefers the term backstabbers. Is it you, Elder Danzo? If Ruahuo formed a seal with his hands, Sharingan locked onto the location where the enemy was most densely populated. Fire-style dragon flame. Ode. The high-temperature flame broke through the blockade of branches and leaves in a straight line, like a dragon's breath, heading straight for the enemy. At this stage, Ruahuo is very clear about his strengths and weaknesses. He can only use fire style, and with the blessing of Little Fire God, he is definitely at the level of elite Jonin. But apart from that, his physique, speed, and strength are all obviously shortcomings. With 3 Magatama, it may be possible to operate it in a 1v1 situation. But in situations like this where there are too many 1vs, let's just be a fire-style magician. Disperse. The enemies immediately dispersed and distanced themselves from each other, avoiding Ruahuo's first counterattack. Ruahuo did not stop the spell. Sharingan locked on the slowest unlucky guy, controlled the dragon flame and sprayed it. Although the distance is not close, fire-style speed is obviously faster than this unlucky guy. Help me stop him. Feeling the scorching heat getting closer, the ninja was obviously panicked and quickly called for support from his companions. But what awaited him was a ruthless order. Knock him down now. As soon as he finished speaking, a ninja quickly formed seals with his hands and aimed at Ruahuo. Water-style water shockwave. Boom. A huge stream of water spurted out from this ninja's mouth, carrying a powerful impact and heading straight for Ruahuo in midair. Sure enough, he came after me. First there is wind escape and then water style, and the only thing missing is darkness. Facing the water that was about to reach him, Ruahuo gritted his teeth, but did not stop Dragon Flame. He wanted to kill one first. Ah! The screams were so harsh in the night sky that the fire dragon at Ruahuo's feet also encountered the impact at the same time. This water-style shot was so powerful that if Ruahuo lost the opportunity to dodge, the fire dragon under his feet was almost blown away. But Ruahuo was ready when he made up his mind. He simply gave up on the fire dragon, and when the water shockwave was about to arrive, Chakra was ready. Fire-style Great Fireball. With the support of the Little Fire God and the main skill, this most basic sea-level fire style has 5 times the damage on the initial panel. What's more, Ruohuo has used enough chakra. The flaming giant fist smashed into water shockwave, directly crushing the water style in a devastating way, and then fell from the sky. The fist expanded more and more, and slammed into the water style ninja like a meteorite. Nani? This water style ninja looked horrified. He didn't even think of hiding from a ninjutsu of this scale in such a scorching temperature. Are you confused? Are you dumbfounded? With the help of the reaction force, Ruohuo, who rose instead of falling after the fire dragon disappeared, looked excited and ferocious. This is not a Chunin test, Hundens. Oh, Orochimaru had already set off when Wakaki activated the fire formation stone. But 2 figures suddenly stopped him. The 2 have different body shapes, and both wear hoods. One has a mask with patterns on the roots, and the other only wears sunglasses. Ryoma-kun, Jiren-kun. I didn't expect to see you 2 here. Orochimaru's smile was still gentle. The moment these 2 people appeared, he knew what happened. So the mission given to you by Elder Danzo is to stop me. Orochimaru raised 2 fingers. The 2 of them immediately felt unparalleled pressure. Standing in front of them is the strongest disciple of the 3rd generation, one of the Sannin, Konoha Cold Lord, Orochimaru. Danzo-sama didn't mean that, Orochimaru-sama. Yamanaka immediately shouted loudly, and the 2 of them bowed down together and entered a high alert state at the same time. We have no intention to be enemies with Orochimaru-sama, we are just conveying a few words of Danzo Elder's instructions. Is it? The smile on Orochimaru's face remained unchanged. Then I would like to thank Elder Danzo. After all, it is very difficult to face 2 people at the same time. I wonder what the Elder Danzo ordered. Danzo-sama wants to cooperate with Orochimaru-sama. Yamanaka spoke quickly and said anxiously, Elder Danzo is willing to support Lord Orochimaru in his candidacy for the 4th Hokage. Oh, Orochimaru's expression remained unchanged and he glanced in the direction behind the 2 of them. The fire lit up the night sky, and along with the bursts of black smoke, the explosion of the detonating talisman was endless. This is really flattering news. Orochimaru smiled and lowered his fingers in the seal. So, Elder Danzo, what do you want from me? Hearing this, Yamanaka and Aburame Ryoma breathed a sigh of relief. Yamanaka took out a scroll from his arms and threw it towards Orochimaru. Here are all records of wood-style experiments from the 2nd Hokage period to the present, of course, only part of them. This is Danzo-sama's sincerity. Danzo-sama wants Orochimaru-sama to help restart this plan if Orochimaru-sama is willing. Danzo-sama is willing to provide all support to Orochimaru-sama, including running for the position of 4th Hokage. And all Orochimaru-sama needs to do is wait here for a while. Orochimaru frowned slightly. He did not open the scroll, nor did he doubt its authenticity. Orochimaru also does not doubt Danzo's commitment. Danzo's support is indeed a great help for him to succeed the Hokage. Orochimaru looked into the air again. The fire has illuminated half of the sky, and his students are obviously fighting fiercely with others, and the battle is still very fierce. Orochimaru clearly. That child was also one of the conditions for Danzo to cooperate with him. The mission of these 2 people is just to stop him. When everything is over, Genbu will naturally be able to forge enough traces and help him stay out of the matter. Only, this cooperation doesn't seem very fair to me, you 2. Orochimaru put a smile on his face again and walked straight past the 2 of them, but did not return the scroll. That child is my student. I have put a lot of effort into him. Even the teacher is full of expectations for this child. I am completely sincere to Elder Danzo. But Elder Danzo doesn't seem to care very much. Boom, boom, boom. Ruohuo was doing 2 things. While keeping the fire dragon bombs flying in the air, the great fireball switched forms again, turning into fire bombs, and it was a covering bombardment directed at the bottom. The absolute air superiority allows Ruohuo to always control the offensive power. The absolute control of the great fireball, coupled with a full 500% increase in power, allows Ruohuo to maintain absolute suppression over enemies on the ground. No, it's too noisy. This brat is beyond the range of my ninjutsu. What should I do? Why hasn't he used up his chakra yet? There are 3 minutes at most. If this kid doesn't come down yet, we have to retreat. Prepare to take away the body. No evidence can be left behind. The masked ninjas communicated quickly while dodging. In the sky, Ruahuo has completely entered the rampage mode. Come out and confront me head-on. You fools. If Ruahuo holds the yin seal with both hands. Most fire styles end with this seal. Under the buff of Little Fire God, S200% ninjutsu activation, Ruaka can use this seal to use at least 20 fire styles. But now he only plans to use the most basic Great Fireball. If you don't plan to come out, then the whole forest will be reduced to ashes. If Huo had accumulated enough chakra, he injected 50 times the chakra into this basic C-level ninjutsu to increase the scale. The consumption is equivalent to 5 normal full-power Great Fireballs. But it is 5 times the power and 50 times the scale. The Will of Fire, the Great Fire World. This is a super giant fireball that is as dazzling as an artificial sun. The dark night was completely ignited, and the entire forest was illuminated by the light of the flames. Boom! The artificial sun hits the forest. With such high temperatures and such a scale, there is no way to avoid it, we can only face it head-on. If the second Hokage Senju Tobarama was here, perhaps in this waterless land, he could forcefully resist with his unparalleled water style. But with such a super standard fire style, even if it is second Hokage, if there is no necessary reason, I am afraid that I will choose to use Flying Thunder God to avoid its edge. What's more, just a few rats in the gutter. This is Aburame, Ryoma and Yamanaka, who did not participate in the battle, stared with wide eyes, watching the giant Great Fireball fall like the sun falling. Their expressions were dull, and they even forgot to think for a moment. Retreat quickly. Don't be affected. Aburame Ryoma reacted first, alerted his colleagues, and then ran back without hesitation. What kind of monster is this that can use fire style on such a scale? What kind of technique is that? Uchiha also masters this fire style. Forbidden technique. This is definitely a forbidden technique. This can only be a forbidden technique. No wonder Orochimaru had already figured out their intentions, but was still willing to stay for a while. Such a monster. All the plans Danzo-sama laid out a week in advance are not enough to destroy this Uchiha brat. Unless Orochimaru takes the initiative to take action, it is simply impossible. But will Orochimaru choose to cooperate with Danzo? Watch the blazing light fall. The heat in Orochimaru's eyes did not diminish at all, and he calmly took the seal, preparing to deal with the impact of this heat wave. Is this the limit of your will of fire, Lord Ruahuo? For you, I gave up a shortcut to becoming a Hokage. Tisk. If it were Fugaku, what would he use to block this move? Looking at the charred blackness all over the ground, the once dense trees have become bare, leaving only the trunks still burning with flames. This is why Ruahuo feels that he may not win against Fugaku, but he will definitely not lose. He can rely on his superiority in the air to make powerful moves in the sky. Fugaku on the ground can only do hard hitting and dodging. Uchiha and Senju really can't get along. Fire style also causes too much damage to the environment. It's a sin. Ruahuo stepped on the fire dragon and fell down, and found several corpses in the thick ashes. After all, Great Fireball is AC level ninjutsu, and its basic damage is a bit uninteresting, otherwise it wouldn't be called good fire. But no matter how basic ninjutsu is, after quantitative changes lead to qualitative changes, it will not be a concept. If Great Fire Destruction is put as the main skill, the scale will be 50 times. Well, I guess it won't be used. After all, the basic consumption of the two techniques is not the same concept. It's a really horrifying scene. Orochimaru's body emerged from the ground next to him, his hoarse voice full of appreciation and a hint of surprise. You seem to have turned this place into purgatory, Lord Ruahuo. Purgatory. It's really an apt description. If the B-level main skill is still fire style, maybe this name can be used. Wakaki glanced at Orochimaru and saw that there was no mucus on him. I don't know if it's because I haven't undergone any software modifications and can't use it, or I've secretly washed my hands. He just saw Orochimaru rushing over at the last moment. They said that the teacher had been assassinated by their people. Although I didn't really believe it, I was still a little angry. Ruahuo said expressionlessly. These people are really hateful, even the ninjutsu they use is the type one hate the most. Fortunately, I got Chunin's will of fire, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to make it to the teacher. I can't stand it until I come. Who can't hold on? Orochimaru has reservations about this issue. Compared with these, he is more curious about what is revealed in Ruahuo's words. This kid seems to have noticed something. Oh, what ninjutsu did they use on Wakaho-kun? Water style and wind style. Although they don't have the earth style that I hate the most, they always like to launch sneak attacks like mice. Ruahuo said with a look of disgust. They obviously don't have the will of fire in them, but they have a very dark smell, like rats in the sewers, only daring to run around in the dark. Orochimaru suppressed a smile. Sewer rats who only dare to run around in the dark. For that elder, it was really an apt description. So is this kid even so keen in this area? If it weren't for the fact that Wakaki knew nothing about Danzo's roots, Orochimaru would have even suspected that Wakaki was alluding to something. The will of fire is hot and bright, Ruo Fire Lord. Orochimaru guided. There are many things in this world that are opposed to each other and yet rely on each other. Where there is light, there is darkness, and where there is sunshine, there are shadows. If you inherit the will of fire, then naturally someone will inherit the will of darkness. You are destined to be enemies. Ruahuo held back his laughter. These words, he had used them before when educating Obito. It's a pity that Obito didn't understand it well, but little Shisui was stunned for a long time. So, is Orochimaru giving him psychological hints? Let him fight Danzo in the future. Or are you reminding him that there is an old man named Danzo in Konoha who will target him? Interesting. Hey, if they are enemies, can I burn them to death at any time? Teacher, Ruahuo asked straightforwardly. Orochimaru smiled slightly, as if he had expected Ruahuo to have this problem. Certainly, since he is your enemy, it is natural to let him feel the temperature of the will of fire. You didn't burn the enemy to death, but you purified the world. Really looking forward to it. If Wakahara becomes the leader of the Uchiha clan, will he retreat again and again in the face of pressure from the top management? Especially the leader of the Will of Darkness, Elder Danzo. Under the teacher's will, I walked in the darkness of Konoha for so many years. Even Konoha ninjas will eliminate any existence that is considered a threat without hesitation. The Senju clan, including the boy Nezuki. Back then, Shungshu stepped on a trap during the mission and was taken away by the detonating talisman. Today, Ruahuo was attacked by rats just after leaving the village. Oh, how can there be so many coincidences in this world? Orochimaru is more optimistic about this child with a bright future than working with those mice. And after Konoha ushered in a new era, there is no need for those dregs of the old era to exist. I understand, teacher. Ruahuo nodded thoughtfully. If I encounter these rats again, I will directly use the will of fire to purify them. Bug team failed. Danzo received the report from his personal guards that night. Aburame Ryoma's bug brought the information back immediately. Forbidden level fire style, a giant fireball comparable to the heat of the sun. Why haven't I heard that Uchiha has such forbidden techniques? Danzo frowned. It was impossible for Aburame Ryoma to deceive him, but the information he brought back was too exaggerated. The fire-style ninjutsu of the Uchiha clan, as early as when Uchiha Madara was buried, Uchiha was handed over to Konoha in full. This was the teacher himself at that time. Did Uchiha hide any forbidden techniques since that time? But if this is true, then why is there no mention of Uchiha Madara in the records? Danzo was puzzled. But Aburame Ryoma's bugs are still waiting for instructions, and now is not the time to explore this. The point is Orochimaru. Aburame Ryoma recorded Orochimaru's response word for word. The most important part is undoubtedly the word, sincerity. Isn't that how you show your sincerity to me, by not killing dragons and horses and treating people? What else do you want? Danzo frowned. Orochimaru is more greedy than he thought. They have already given him those precious experimental records, and this guy still wants to ask for them. Danzo thought about the chips in his hand. War exploits, forbidden techniques. Orochimaru wants nothing more than these two things now. One is the Hokage position that he couldn't get. One is what he desires most. Perhaps it's time to make a choice. Ruahuo has not been able to find a mouse that can be purified for the time being. But he met a real Iwagakure ninja. It was a 3-person team, all wearing Iwagakure's forehead protectors. They met in the forest and launched a surprise attack on Ruahuo when they met. There is only one kid from Konoha, take him down. Move quickly. There may be Konoha ninjas behind him, so fight quickly. Leave this kid to me, I like this kind of little guy with thin skin and tender meat the best. Fire style. The fire is extinguished. Spread. With 20% consumption and twice the power, after Ruahuo spewed out a sea of fire, the 3 Magatama locked onto the 3 Iwagakure ninjas who retreated decisively and transformed into seals again. Fire style. Fire wave. 3 more flame shock waves erupted from the sea of fire, accelerated a second time, and headed straight for the 3 Iwagakure ninjas. The 2 Iwagakure genin were unable to respond in time and were hit by the fire wave. The high-temperature flames smashed them onto the trees and the ground with a powerful impact. After a burst of screams, there was no more movement. The remaining Iwagakure is a genin. For a 3-person team like this, without a ninja to guide them, there should be at least one chunin leading the team. This is a battlefield. What is the difference between the configuration of all genin members and giving away their lives? But Iwagakure doesn't take this path. In Iwagakure of the Stormtrooper style, the only thing you play with is quantity. Earth style. Tulu returns. This Iwagakure genin mobilized the earth under his feet and blocked the impact of the flames with an earth wall. Just as he was about to confirm the condition of his companion, he suddenly felt a stinging pain in his heart. He lowered his head and saw that a kunai with hot blood had penetrated his chest. Your progress surprises me, Lord Ruahuo. Orochimaru took back the kunai, shook off the blood on it, and praised Wakahuo not far away. Is it possible to activate a second ninjutsu with the help of fire? This is not the first time they have encountered enemies. The degree of danger of this mission has obviously exceeded the B-level judgment of the mission itself. Orochimaru deliberately let Wakahui adapt to the rhythm of the battlefield. And the ability and imagination shown by Wakahuo are constantly refreshing Orochimaru's cognition. Based on the fire extinguished by the powerful fire, the second launch of water, fire wave is more like what water-style ninjas often do. I've been thinking about how to release multiple ninjutsu at once, sensei. Ruahuo neatly plundered the loot from the 2 corpses and responded, when I use the special fire style, the load on my eyes will be very heavy. If there is no way to quickly deal with the enemy, then the situation will soon turn against me. My competitor is the Fugaku clan leader. He has the blessing of Jonin's will of fire and the clan leader's will of fire. He will definitely find this weakness of mine, and I must find a way to overcome it. Orochimaru actually wanted to say to Ruahuo, my child, your will of fire can only be used by yourself. Although the head of your family is Jonin, he does not have the so-called blessing of the will of fire, he is just a normal person. But Ruahuo's worries are actually not unreasonable. At such a young age, if you want to challenge the leader of the clan, there are always a lot of disadvantages. Your direction is right, but I suggest that after completing this mission, you can ask Mr. Third Generation for help. Third Generation Master has the title of Professor Ninjutsu. He can definitely give you better advice on how to combine ninjutsu. Orochimaru smiled and handed the last ninja bag to Wakaki. Good teacher. Ruahuo accepted it, took out the time and space scroll and put it away, and then took out the mission scroll. But then again, teacher. We have been searching this area for so long, why has the team in need of assistance never come out, huh? Ruahuo suddenly entered combat mode again. Teacher, be careful, there are still enemies. Whizzing. As soon as Ruahuo finished speaking, 2 figures suddenly appeared, one with a mask covering his face but with orange hair, and the other wearing only sunglasses and a hood, full of killer aura. It is Aburame Ryoma and Yamanaka who are the 2 personal guards of the root leader Danzo. Lord Orochimaru, your mission has changed. This is the new mission content. Aburame Ryoma stretched out his hand, and a scroll wrapped in insects flew towards Orochimaru. Please choose whether you want to carry out the mission. Once confirmed, please go to Kana in 2 days. Uchiha Kid, what do you want to do? Aburame Ryoma shouted loudly when he noticed that Wakahuo suddenly started to form seals. HMPH. 2 rats in the gutter, I can feel the dirty dark will in you even with my eyes closed. Ruahuo inhaled sharply, fire-style dragon flame. This is the fastest and most powerful move in ninjutsu's arsenal at Wakaka's mid-range range. Disperse. The two of them activated their magic powers and dispersed instantly, but how could the fire allow them to do so? San Magatama has locked on Yamanaka Jirudo from the beginning. This guy's hair color revealed his identity as a Yamanaka tribesman, and it was impossible for Ruaka to let him act. Spewing dragon flame from his mouth, he chases Yamanaka to treat people and sprays it all. Uchiha brat, are you going to disobey the village's orders? Aburame Ryoma shouted immediately after landing, and at the same time, he formed a seal to release insects and prepared to attack Wakahui. But before he could make any move, a strong murderous intention suddenly enveloped his whole body. Aburame Ryoma was suddenly startled and looked at Orochimaru suddenly. Ryoma-kun, please be patient. Orochimaru took the scroll, raised both fingers at the same time, and looked at Aburame Ryoma with a smile. Ruahuo Lord is usually docile and well-behaved, and would not attack others easily. There must be some reason why he reacted like this today. Ryoma-kun might as well wait and see what happens, and wait until I ask this child. Then you should ask quickly. Aburame Ryoma cursed secretly. What happened to Orochimaru? If you take the scroll but don't open it, does this mean you need to cooperate with Danzo-sama? Wakahuo-kun. Orochimaru kept smiling and looked at Wakahuo. Ruahuo indeed stopped attacking, but the movements of his hands did not stop. He is hiding. Teacher, give me 2 minutes and I will go and purify him. Fire-style fire dragon bullet. Ode. A giant flaming dragon appeared out of thin air. Without taking off his shoes, Ruahuo jumped forward, landed firmly on the head of the fire dragon, and then soared into the sky. Seeing Ruahuo flying higher and higher, it was obvious that he was planning to launch a range-wide fire-style bombing in this area again. Aburame Ryoma was worried, but Orochimaru still looked unhurried. Ruahuo Lord, teacher has something to say to you. Wakao-kun. Fire-style the art of singing with dragon flames. 4 dragon heads dropped from the sky and bombarded the place where Yamanaka was curing people. The smile on Orochimaru's face became even wider. He looked at Aburame Ryoma again, spread his hands and said, Ryoma-kun, I'm sorry. This kid is a little busy now. How about, you wait a little longer? Orochimaru-sama. Aburame Ryoma shouted, why don't you first take a look at the conditions Danzo-sama offers you? Danzo-sama has shown enough sincerity this time. He can eliminate a competitor for you and provide you with a prominent military exploit. Such an offer is already very generous. Do you really not want to consider it? Ryoma-kun, this is not the person I remember who could remain calm at that moment. Orochimaru looked at Ruahuo who was flying away, then looked at the unopened scroll in his hand, chuckled and shook his head. Look, aren't I thinking about this? Orochimaru played with the scroll in his hand, without looking at it. He had already roughly guessed something based on Aburame Ryoma's words just now. Danzo-sama wants to cooperate with me. In addition to showing enough sincerity, you must at least show enough strength, right? Otherwise, why would I abandon the oldest ninja clan in Konoha to engage in such a risky cooperation with Danzo-sama? Aburame Ryoma's expression was shocked. Orochimaru actually plans to cooperate with the Uchiha clan, just because this brat is his disciple. Let's make a bet, Ryoma-kun. Orochimaru looked into the distance. I remember that Jiren-kun became Danzo Elder's bodyguard 3 years ago. He was selected from a group of special jonin. If he can survive in Lord Ruahuo's hands for 5 minutes, I will open this scroll in front of Lord Ruahuo. How? The bombing of Long Yan's singing technique did not work. Yamanaka ran out of the flames, using the big tree as a cover, his figure flashing. Ruahuo formed a seal with his hands, and the 3 Magatama locked Yamanaka in the air. The technique he wants most right now is actually Senju Tobarama's water-style water break wave. With fast attack speed and strong penetration, it can be called a high-pressure water gun. If activated with fire style, coupled with various buff increases, it might be a high-temperature laser. Used as a sniper rifle, he might just be able to ignore the bunker and blow up the head of this Yamanaka root ninja. Dear Mr. Orochimaru has already said that when he encounters a guy with a dark will, he can choose to take action directly. This is not killing, this is purifying the world. Ruahuo was still thinking about whether he could find an opportunity to implement the teacher's teachings after returning to Konoha. Unexpectedly, I got the opportunity to take action so soon. So Orochimaru really has no intention of stopping me at all. Killing Yamanaka and treating people here, Orochimaru is fully responsible. Ruahuo kept his distance, not intending to give this guy a chance to activate the Yamanaka secret technique. I took the time to glance in the direction of Orochimaru and Aburame Ryoma, and found that neither of them were chasing them. Ruahuo is no stranger to the combination of these two. In the original time and space, after Orochimaru failed to run for Hokage, he defected to Danzo and became Danzo's bodyguard, and was a colleague of Aburame Ryoma. But now at this point in time, if Huo discovers, Orochimaru seems to be still stopping Aburame Ryoma. Interesting. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows. Fire-style fire dragon bullet. Ruahuo pressed his hands on the dragon's head, injected chakra violently, and the flaming dragon suddenly opened its bloody mouth. After possessing 3 Magatama, several dragon ninjutsu can also try to fuse. What Ruahuo needs to do now is to first fuse the fire-water dragon bullets with the fire-earth dragon bullets and install the ship-based machine guns. Chug tug tug tug. If the fire is kept at a certain distance, the fire dragon under its feet will be aimed at Yamanaka and it will keep firing fire bombs. This little devil. Yamanaka gritted his teeth. The fire in the sky was beyond the range of the secret technique. He had no room to counterattack and could only be beaten passively. The speed of flying is always faster than running on the ground. Yamanaka quickly discovered this reality and used the big tree as a cover to dodge, performing a standard tactical evasion for Wakahui. Spin, jump, never stop. Yamanaka didn't dare to stop. If he hesitated for a moment, what awaited him was a violent bombardment. Is this kid crazy? The impact point was predicted in advance by Ruahuo, and he was about to be hit by countless fire bombs. Yamanaka cursed secretly, and escaped with a substitute technique. The body shape changes, attack and defense alternate briefly. Yamanaka quickly forms seals and aims at Wakahuo. Ninpo Shin. Before the secret technique was activated, Yamanaka saw fire bombs coming from the sky. Do you still want to play these little tricks under the gaze of these eyes? You gutter rats, who gave you the courage to deceive the teacher and dare to compete with me? Shini. If the fire controls the fire, the dragon flame is fully activated, and the fire bombs are as dense as multiple shadow clone. But this place is in a dense forest after all. Yamanaka immediately locked onto a towering tree. As long as he dodges this wave of attacks, he still has a chance. Whoosh! Yamanaka dashes instantly. Snapped. Ruahuo clapped his hands. Yamanaka finally rushed to the big tree, and the first fire bomb exploded not far from him. Ninjutsu. Yamanaka didn't dare to stop, so he formed seals in advance to prepare to activate the secret technique. This might be his last chance. But when he aimed at the young man riding the fire dragon again. Fire-style double dragon flame prison. The 2 fire-water dragon bullets bypassed the big tree, one on the left and the other on the right, and finally hit Yamanaka. At the moment of the hit, the forms of the 2 fire dragons changed again, directly turning into a cage of flames. Fire-style fire-water dragon bullet plus fire-style fire-water prison technique. Just like Orochimaru said, Wakahuo did not change the form of the 2 ninjutsu, but used the power of the fire to activate the second ninjutsu. Just like a water-style ninja creates a large amount of water flow out of thin air in a waterless land, and then uses the water flow to activate ninjutsu again. Ah, let me out. My eyes. Ah, I am Danzo-sama's. The battle between ninjas often only takes a split second to win or lose. The fire prison lasted a minute, but Yamanaka only lasted less than half of the time. And when Orochimaru and Aburame Ryoma arrived, all they were left with was a scorched corpse. Have you defeated another enemy, Lord Ruahuo? Orochimaru ignored the expression on Aburame Ryoma's face next to him and said with a smile, "This is already the 15th enemy you have killed. Theoretically, this has exceeded the danger level of an A-level mission. When we return to Konoha, I will explain the situation to Mr. Hokage." Next to him, Ryoma Aburame's face became very ugly. "It will be the 16th soon, teacher." Ruahuo makes a mudra with one hand, holding one fist in front of the mouth. I just had an idea on the way. The Dragon Flame technique is a high-temperature gun. If you install a convergence device on the musket, maybe you can be a great sniper within 10 meters. Cinchers are not hard to find either. With his 90% high-temperature immunity and the protection of his own chakra, pressing the gun with bare hands is not a problem. Fire-style Dragon Flame Gun. Chapter 31. Ruahuo's assumption is correct. Pressing the gun with bare hands, Dragon Flame's convergence state was forcibly increased by about 3 meters, and then the speed of spread was not that fast. The key is that after the pressure increases, the jet speed becomes much faster. Aburame Ryoma's insect clone didn't even react and was burned to ashes. Tisk, it turns out to be a clone. Ruahuo curled his lips and looked at Orochimaru not very happy. The teacher told him to run away. There will always be a chance to meet you again, Wakahuo-kun. Orochimaru smiled and said, if it doesn't work out, it's too late for us to start chasing him now. It's better to save people first, teacher. Ruahuo's heart only moved for a second before giving up the idea of pursuing him. Although I don't know why Orochimaru is also targeting Danzo, he has no intention of becoming Orochimaru's sword. It's easy to kill one person, but it's not easy for Elder Danzo to train his subordinates. Compared with eradicating the rats in the gutter, the people waiting for rescue are more important. Ruahuo said seriously. Indeed. Orochimaru smiled and took out the scroll from his arms and threw it to Ruahuo. This is also a rescue mission, the level of danger is higher, and it is probably a trap. Lord Ruahuo, why not make your own decision? Ruahuo opened the scroll, his expression gradually became weird. It is indeed a rescue mission, but it would be more appropriate to describe it as a support mission. Another team encountered danger while performing a mission and sent out a signal for help and called for support. And this task, he is really not unfamiliar with it. The mission requirement is to attack an extremely important material supply line in Iwagakure and destroy the Kanabi Bridge. Ruahuo is a little confused. Why is this a mission? At this time, shouldn't White Fang be performing this task? Why did it end up in Orochimaru's hands, and it was given to him by Danzo? I always find it a bit of a mystery. The mission location is here, Mr. Ruahuo. Orochimaru very thoughtfully took out a map and pointed out their current location on the map, the location of Kanabi Bridge. Considering the high probability of Iwagakure ninjas appearing along the way, it will take us 20 hours at the fastest to reach this place. The distance itself is not short, plus there are dangers you may encounter on the way. 20 hours is considered reasonable. But the key is, this task was given to the teacher by those mice, right? Wakahui looked directly into Orochimaru's eyes. Although it was wrapped in bugs at the time, I saw it with a Sharingan when I left. This is the scroll, teacher. One thing to say, if Ruahuo still doesn't know what happened, then he would really be sorry for the soul genes of his director father and strong woman mother. Indeed, Lord Ruahuo. Orochimaru had no intention of denying it. This mission originally belonged to another team from Konoha. Their departure time was only a week earlier than ours. And what I can be sure of is that they did not return to Konoha before we set off. Orochimaru looked at Wakaki. At this point, Orochimaru is ready to spread some of Konoha's dark knowledge to Wakahui. For example, what kind of organization do the people Ruahuo killed the night before and the scorched corpse on the ground belong to? Orochimaru wants to know more. How will this child react when he knows all this? Perhaps this would be a bit cruel to a child. But for a ninja, especially a ninja with big dreams, some things are better known sooner. At least, I can live a little longer and not die in a trap at a young age. So, what the teacher means is, the rats have actually penetrated into the village. Ruahuo frowned and said with a serious face, they even infiltrated the upper echelons of the village and gained a lot of power. Ruahuo became extremely excited again. I'll tell you there's something wrong with the 2 gatekeepers at the Hokage building. The smile on Orochimaru's face froze for 2 seconds. Wakao-kun, what are you talking about? Why are those 2 defensive ninjas involved again? Haven't they already been burned to the hospital by you using fire style? I have never understood it. They are obviously spies, but Grandpa Hokage, the teacher, and Anbu's uncles all say there is nothing wrong with them. Ruahuo said impassionedly. Now I understand, it turns out they are the rats. It's just that I didn't get Chunin's will of fire at that time, so I couldn't sense the dark aura on them. Ruahuo slammed the scroll to the ground. Konoha has been infiltrated by these rats. Quote. Orochimaru was silent. Quote. Orochimaru was silent for 2 minutes. Quote. Orochimaru couldn't help it anymore. Wakao-kun. We have to save people, teacher. Ruahuo said suddenly. Orochimaru still couldn't follow Ruahuo's train of thought. Rescue people. Yes, we must save people. Ruahuo pointed to the scroll on the ground with a serious face. Teacher, didn't you realize that this is their conspiracy? Conspiracy. Orochimaru is still confused. Have you discovered it? What did you find? Yes, it's a conspiracy. Ruahuo said firmly. From the beginning, our rescue mission was to support this team, but they changed the mission content. They don't want us to go to support, and they keep sending people to attack us to delay time. Seeing that the time has almost been delayed, then hand over the real mission content to us so that we can erase the traces of them modifying the mission. And in the end, this mission will fail, and the people we want to rescue may also die. These rats will have the last laugh and continue to erode Konoha. Quote. After Orochimaru listened, his thoughts suddenly became smoother. Is that so? To be honest, if you don't roughly know what the truth is, Orochimaru really can't find any fault. I see. Orochimaru nodded. I understand, Lord Ruahuo, you are right. Orochimaru really figured it out. If you want to keep up with Ruahuo's thinking, the first thing you have to do is forget the so-called truth. This child has a unique perspective that seems absurd, but is logically rigorous and cannot find any faults. Change the angle. Danzo, and the rats under his command. Aren't they just spies who have infiltrated the top brass of Konoha? Then we have no time to waste, teacher. Ruahuo took off the shoes on his feet. He had no time to take them off during the battle just now. Although the soles of his feet were covered with a layer of chakra, the soles were still softened a lot. This makes Wakahuo very distressed. He has a relationship with these shoes. He originally planned to pass them on to Obito first and then Shisui. Snapped. Ruahuo clasped his hands together and formed a seal suddenly. Fire style how fire dragon. Ode. The fire dragon appears out of thin air, if the fire light steps on it. Teacher, come up. We have to get to the bridge in the shortest possible time. Quote. Orochimaru took half a second to consider whether to ride the fire dragon. The answer is that his physique may not be suitable. The journey is too far, so don't consume too much chakra, Ruahuo. Orochimaru bit his finger and slammed it to the ground. Psychic art. Orochimaru, it's you again. If you want to borrow my power, are the sacrifices for 100 people ready? A huge snake with purple stripes all over its body appeared. It was the big snake from Longdi Cave, Wan Shi. As a representative of evil psychic beasts, Wan Shi will ask for sacrifices every time he is channeled, but his strength cannot be underestimated. It can be said that a large part of the reason why Sannin is so famous comes from their respective psychic beasts. Of course, Master Wan Shi. Orochimaru responded with ease and calmness. I have prepared enough sacrifices for Master Wan Shi, but I need to ask Master Wan Shi to help him on his way. This is a battlefield, a place where there is no shortage of sacrifice. Is that kid also my sacrifice? Wan Shi raised its huge head and looked at Ruahuo in midair. Then, it faced Wakahui's 3 Magatama Sharingan. Teacher, I also feel a strong dark aura on it. Master Wan Shi comes from Longdi Cave. I have a contractual relationship with Longdi Cave, Mr. Ruahuo. Orochimaru tried to reconcile at the edge of what was acceptable to both of them. Those eyes. Orochimaru, I changed my mind. This kid can replace 4 sacrifices, let me eat him. Wan Shi said so and did so. What kind of sacrifice does it want to eat? Does it need Orochimaru's consent? Orochimaru was indeed a little helpless. He was about to end his channeling and switch to a snake to ride, but then he suddenly heard Ruahuo's provocative voice. Let's wait until you catch me, Baga. Let's talk. Ruahuo directly controls the fire dragon to fly far away. You brat, wait for me. Wan Shi immediately squirmed with its huge body and chased Ruahuo. There are rocks ahead, Lord Wan Snake. Orochimaru stood calmly on Wan Snake's head, smiling and reminding him to avoid it. Snort. The two of them set off together. The destination is Canopy Bridge, which is not that far away. The scheduled journey takes 20 hours, but with the flying capabilities of 10,000 snakes and fire, water, dragon bombs, it will obviously be shortened a lot. This is the way of traveling. It is inevitable that it will be a bit arrogant. But arrogance is arrogance. It often takes enough courage to stop this pair on the road. The flaming dragon flying in the sky. A super large python that chases the fire dragon and occasionally tries to attack it. Ruahuo controls the direction of the fire dragon. The fire dragon controls the direction of the snakes. Wan Shi's huge body was destroyed all the way. Not to mention blocking the Iwagakure ninjas they met on the road, even escaping had to look at the faces of Ruahuo and Wan Shi. What's going on with that big snake? Why is it so big? Did Orochimaru of Konoha launch an attack with the Konoha ninjas? No, look at the sky. Orochimaru's target is not us, but that Uchiha. Konoha's Uchiha. The messenger team will report to 3rd generation Tsuchikage-sama immediately. Oops, the direction they are going in is wrong. They seem to be heading, their target is Iwagakure village. Are you crazy? Do they want to surprise Iwagakure like this? 3rd generation Tsuchikage has an order. Support will be here soon, try to intercept them. There is a giant dragon flying in the sky and a giant snake chasing below. This scene is not easy to see. After being shocked, the Iwagakure ninjas finally discovered the purpose of the master and apprentice. If they continue in this direction, the endpoint will be Iwagakure village. The Iwagakure ninjas were furious and their morale was high for a while. Orochimaru is too arrogant, he really plans to rush to their home like this. I really think that Iwagakure, are weak and can be bullied. As a result, more and more Iwagakure, filled with anger, tried to intercept the pair of masters and disciples. At first, Ruahuo was basically too lazy to take care of it. All you need to do is control Wan Shi and let Wan Shi crush him directly. Wan Shi is too lazy to care. This brat dares to provoke Master Wan Shi, he must be swallowed. Orochimaru is too lazy to care. Looking at the figure in the sky, Orochimaru felt a little hopeful. Ruahuo-jun, you and Master Wan Shi seem to get along very well, right? However, with the increasing number of Iwagakure ninjas, including those who are chasing from behind, and those who are blocked in front. If Huo basically advances in a straight line, his intention is too obvious. The Iwagakure ninjas directly set up a temporary defensive front, and together they raised a huge wall tens of meters high. But how can a mere city wall stop Ruahuo? I saw that Ruahuo first increased the amount of chakra of the fire dragon under his feet, soared up to several hundred meters, and crossed the Iwagakure blockade. At the same time, he did not forget to leave a fire-style Tianchi. Fire rained down from the sky, but the Iwagakure ninjas could only rage furiously and spread their anger on Orochimaru, who was riding 10,000 snakes. Frankly speaking, if one snake ends his channeling at this time, he will forcefully return to Longbi Cave. Then Iwagakure may have to capture a Sannin as a prisoner. Fortunately, although Wan Shi is evil, he still has professional ethics. He escaped to the ground, forcibly dug a hole, and then he got so arrogant that he directly drilled out from above the city wall, opened his bloody mouth and swallowed a few unlucky ones to replenish his strength, and finally continued to chase Ruahuo. Looking at the flaming dragon in the sky. And that rascally snake. In addition to scolding, the Yinian people also became more convinced. They are going to launch an attack on Iwagakure village. And after breaking through the temporarily formed defense line, the obstacles that blocked the way forward for the master and apprentice were basically useless. One can fly and the other can escape. How to stop them? The Iwagakure ninjas saw this and were so angry that their teeth itched. The key is that the two masters and apprentices were moving extremely fast, and they were not interested in fighting at all. They were so energetic that they just wanted to rush forward. No chance to fight at all. Too arrogant. So arrogant. Far away in Iwagakure village, in the 3rd Tsuchikage of the Tsuchikage building, the two-person scales Onoki made an angry statement. As a disciple of that old fellow Sarutobi Hiruzen, do you really think that Iwagakure is weak and can be bullied? That junior named Orochimaru, do you think you are Uchiha Madara? Call Han and Z over here. Today we must let this junior know what Iwagakure's power is. Master Han has already set off for Canopy Bridge, Master 3rd generation. An Iwagakure female ninja rushed in. She is Onoki's secretary and daughter-in-law. What is he doing there? There. Huh. The 3rd generation suddenly realized something, flew to the map, and compared it with the route sent by the communication team. Master Han said that the destination of these two people may be Canopy Bridge, and he went to take a look. The Kingdom of Earth is surrounded by mountains and has solid rocks as a natural barrier. This gives Earth Country and Iwagakure a strong defensive advantage in military terms. But the disadvantages are also obvious. The strong defensive advantage was not built by Iwagakure on its own, it was a natural condition. Being able to withstand foreign enemies will also lead to blocked information and inconvenient circulation of resources. After the Third Ninja War, Onoki would hire outside village forces to keep up with current events in the ninja world and complete some secret activities. But at this time, it is obvious that Onoki has chosen a simpler and more crude path: go to war. The essence of war is plunder. Loot the land and plunder resources. Anyway, Iwagakure is not afraid of war, so I will retreat into the territory of Earth Country and fight a defensive war. But what impressed Ruahuo most deeply was not Iwagakure's warlike attribute. It's Iwagakure's super tactic, the violent soldier-style war mode. It is said that the Third Raikage single-handedly defeated 10,000 Gangakure ninjas and died of exhaustion after 3 days of bloody fighting. He was truly a hero. But Iwagakure was able to dispatch so many ninjas in the late stages of the war when he was fighting Konoha and Kumogakure on both sides, which was strange enough in itself. But it is precisely because of the tactics of violent soldiers. The more ninjas on the front lines, the greater the need for supplies. Konoha started the mission of destroying Canopy Bridge twice because of this. It's such a big bridge. Ruahuo stood on the top of the mountain, chewing Bingliong pills, looking down at the rock bridge between the two mountains, somewhat amazed. The entire bridge seems to be embedded between two mountains. Below it is a turbulent river. The water is so fast and fierce that even the ninjas of Kurigakure would not dare to step on it at will. There are many Iwagakure ninjas guarding both sides of the bridge. Some Iwagakure are still wrapped in gauze, and traces of previous battles can still be seen on the bridge deck. It seems that the White Fang has retreated and gone back to the village to be scolded. Did you choose to give up when you saw your teammates couldn't hold on in the middle of the fight? It's quite courageous, Ruahuo murmured during the high-altitude reconnaissance. Compared to the mission performed by Minato, Iwagakure only had 3 Jonin guarding here, and due to lack of information, Kakashi was identified as the White Fang, which led to a series of stories. The war has just started now, and Iwagakure has enough manpower, so it is natural that such a strategic location is heavily guarded. White Fang's task of blowing up the bridge is naturally a bit difficult. But whether it is the mission performed by Minato, or the mission performed by the White Fang, it's certainly not that easy to sneak into this place and destroy this bridge. Unless the attacker can fly and has enough detonating charms on him. I didn't expect that the task of blowing up the bridge would fall into my hands. It's a pity that the water will not break the wave, otherwise this war hero will basically get it for nothing. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows. Danzo, a veteran thief, wants to kill him and tries to convince Orochimaru to join the glorious fight against Uchiha. Orochimaru temporarily rejected Danzo, and borrowed his hand to burn a root ninja of the same level as Aburame Ryoma. Although it seems that Orochimaru doesn't want to cooperate with Danzo yet. But Wakahara knew that once Orochimaru failed to run for Hokage, the two of them might have to wear the same pants within minutes. When the time comes, his knife will naturally become a victim. Orochimaru and Danzo are actually chess players, and they will compete in the next game of Hokage competition plus eradication of Uchiha. Ruahuo only wants to develop and not play chess. His current idea is to be the best chess piece. The identity of the future Uchiha clan leader plus the direct disciple of the 4th generation of the Hokage lineage may not be close to the best. But if you want to add Konoha War Hero and Konoha White Fang's Redeemer, that's a different matter. Tisk. It seems that these detonating symbols cannot be taken back and sold for money. Ruakahuo counted the detonating charms, including those given by Orochimaru and those seized along the way. There were about 20 in total. It's not much, but if the blasting site is found well, it will be enough to make the bridge fall. And he can keep all the military exploits for himself. Because Wan Shi's target was too big, he rushed over in advance. Before leaving, he used the Great Fireball to simulate the stink of the fire dragon bullet and taunted Wan Shi. At this moment, there should only be a few mountains left before Wan Shi reaches the battlefield. Traveling on land, coupled with Wan Shi's bad temper, will definitely cause a lot of noise on the road, and many Iwagakure ninjas should go to support them. Just like Minato's tactics in the future. Minato creates noise to attract firepower, and Kakashi's squad is responsible for blowing up the bridge. The difference is that Minato's tactics were reversed due to the human errors of Iwagakure and Uchiha Madara. But this situation does not exist at all between him and Orochimaru. There's no way anyone would really leave Orochimaru alone, the dignified, Konoha Sannin Cold Lord, the provisional successor of the fourth Hokage, and the future Uchiha clan leader teacher, and risk their lives to protect this bridge, right? No way, right? Ruahuo is gearing up. Chakra consumption has almost been replenished. Although the travel time was shortened to less than an hour, the power of the fire dragon was maintained all the way, and the high-altitude airflow had a great impact on this technique. It was a high-power trip, and the continuous consumption was indeed not low. But it's not a big problem. Chewing on soldiers' food pills all the way, the continuous consumption has been offset a lot, and now he has recovered to a certain extent. The movement not far away became louder and louder. The Iwagakure ninjas on the bridge have been dispatched one after another, and the ordinary people who are transporting supplies have made an emergency retreat. In less than 5 minutes, about 70% of the ninjas on the bridge had disappeared, and they all went to the front line to stop Orochimaru. Only half of them remained on basic alert. It's finally time for the big wolf to appear. Ruahuo grinned, stepped onto the fire dragon, adjusted his stance to a surfing posture, lowered the dragon's head, and then launched a dive. Young ones, my big wolf is back again. Ouch! The fire dragon rushed down, and when the height dropped to be parallel to the canopy bridge, it forced a turn, got under the bridge to the other side, and finally returned to the far left end of the bridge, which is the exit end of Iwagakure's delivery of supplies. Where did the kid come from? Why does this kid seem to have come down from the sky? What kind of creature is under him? Why does it look so much like ninjutsu? This kid has the Uchiha clan emblem on him. He is a ninja from the Uchiha clan of Konoha. Obviously, no matter how little information Iwagakure has, they still know about Konoha and Uchiha. This has to start with a certain ninja Shira driving a Susanna and bullying a boy named Onoki. Listen up, the ninja who destroyed this bridge is named Uchiha Wakahu. Ruahuo's hands were ready to form seals, and the fire dragon at his feet also came around to his side, and opened its bloody mouth. Fire-style dragon flame double spray. Ode. 2 dragon flames, one on the left and one on the right, covered the entire bridge. This is such a crappy name, it might as well be called a double-barreled flamethrower. The main body really doesn't know how to name it. Shadow Clone hung on the bridge and silently attached the detonating talisman. But just when Shadow Clone was almost finished posting. What the hell? The main body on the bridge suddenly screamed strangely. What happened? Shadow Clone finished posting the last detonating talisman and jumped up from under the bridge. Then he saw a burly figure, wearing red armor, steaming all over his body, and even rescued several Iwagakure ninjas. Konoha's Uchiha Wakahu. Very good, I remember your name, boy. The burly man in armor put down the Iwagakure ninja and waved to him. You guys should retreat first and leave this place to me. I will avenge those 2 victims. Bang bang bang. Shadow Clone clapped continuously, turned to look at the main body, and pointed at the bridge below. Okay, we have spawned the hidden boss now, but there should be no boss reward. Come on. Poof, the Shadow Clone disappeared. Han, 5 Tails Jinchuriki. He was extremely powerful and made countless contributions to Iwagakure during the Third Ninja War. Because of his boil-style abilities, he was also called the Steam Ninja. It is indeed a boss. Shadow Clone made the right choice. Facing such an opponent, he didn't need Naruto's wave of people tactics, so he could naturally recover some chakra points. So why did I meet 5 Tails Jinchuriki in this place? I shouldn't have left the teacher alone, ah. Single quote. If the fire has gathered chakra on the soles of its feet, prepare to retreat. The information fed back by Shadow Clone, apart from a little panic, also had a countdown to the detonating talisman. 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Whoosh. Ruahuo retreated suddenly, and Han's body was filled with steam. He was about to pursue, but suddenly stopped and retreated. The next second, boom. Gravel flew and dust flew everywhere. 10 detonating symbols exploded at the same time, enough to crack mountains and crack rocks. The stone bridge at the end of Han's feet was suddenly smashed into a huge gap. Only the hardest parts on both sides were barely connected. This was not over yet. Ruahuo's fire dragon bomb went around under the bridge the moment the explosion sounded, and forcibly activated the detonating talisman with high temperature. Boom. Another fixed point blasting, but this time the effect will be slightly worse. There are still many rocks supporting the bridge connection. Without waiting for Ruahuo to assess how much effort is needed to completely destroy it, the Han on the other side was already covered in white steam and launched a surprise attack. I can't let you continue to destroy the bridge any longer, boy. Han shouted in a low voice with his magnetic baritone, very fast, and the steam pulled out a long white curtain behind him. Who are you trying to scare? Ruahuo clapped his hands, fire style the art of singing with dragon flames. 4 flaming dragon heads blocked Han's hiding space from 4 angles. Ruahuo's 3 Magatama locked Han's every move. But Han didn't hesitate, he crossed his arms in front of him, his whole body was steaming, and he even put on a layer of red-tailed beast chakra coat, and he actually managed to bear this ninjutsu. In fact, it only counts as holding a quarter. After all, you only need to hold one of the 4 fireballs. This is the disadvantage of this technique, and the reason why Ruahuo felt that this technique was unfair at the time. It's okay to abuse vegetables, but when it comes to tough situations, it's not as effective as his great fireball. Fire style fire fist. Ruofu spits out a great fireball and condenses into a giant fist of flames, slamming into Han in one-tail mode. Don't you want me to get close? Han doesn't plan to bear it this time. Even if he has the tailed beast chakra coat, it doesn't mean he can ignore the high temperature of fire style. Moreover, if this fire style collides with the bridge deck, it may cause impact to the bridge. Many gaps were blown out at the bridge connections on both sides, and Han did not dare to take risks. Whoosh! In an instant, Han rushed to the edge of the bridge, supported himself with one hand and crossed to the side of the bridge. With his body parallel to the bridge deck, he attacked Ruahuo from the side road. Ruahuo didn't intend to accept the move. He immediately terminated the release of the great fireball, clapped his hands, rushed to the other side of the bridge, and jumped violently. Ode. The flaming dragon condensed at the feet of Ruohuo, and lifted up Ruohuo directly into the sky. Air supremacy, get. When Han returned to the bridge, he saw Ruohuo standing on a fire dragon in midair. He frowned for a moment and began to think about what to do next. Ruahuo looked into the distance. Wan Shi and Orochimaru must have already encountered the Iwagakure ninja who went to intercept them. The shouts and roars came through Iwagakure's defenses. The teacher is coming soon. You have to hurry up. Wakahui has no intention of letting Orochimaru take away the battle glory. Whether it's Kanabi Bridge or the boss of this level. 5 Tails Jinchuriki. Which Uchiha would be afraid of Jinchuriki? Immediately form a seal with both hands, chakra condenses crazily. The last time he faced a few rats at the roots, because they kept hiding, Ruahuo used 50 times the amount of chakra to create an artificial small sun. Thinking about it now, I was still impulsive at the time. How can you spend so much money to deal with a few rats? That technique is so cool, at least it should be reserved for opponents like 5 Tails Jinchuriki. Sorry, I consumed a lot of chakra all the way here. Otherwise, you might be able to see a bigger sun. Ruahuo muttered, then his eyes heated up, and chakra vented wildly. Fire style the Great Fire World. This time it's 70 times the amount of chakra. 5 times the base power increase, and 70 times the ninjutsu scale increase. Sea level fire style Great Fireball once again has its highlight moment. This time the target is Kanabi Bridge plus 5 Tails Jinchuriki. Boom. That's too late. Han's pupils shrank and he gave up resistance immediately. This was not a technique he could bear in this state. He immediately gave up guarding the bridge and flashed directly to the rock wall of the mountain next to him, running all the way, using the mountain to resist this super large fire style. Boom! Like a fireball from an artificial sun, it hit the bridge. The shattered rock bridge on both sides could no longer bear it. With a loud noise, the bridge collapsed and fell into the roaring river below. The canopy bridge fell, but Ruahuo didn't stop. With just a moment of hesitation, he controlled the fire dragon to dive, heading straight towards the falling fireball. What is he doing? After evading Fire Style's initial killing time, Han immediately turned back. But this time, the tailed beast chakra coat on his body is more intense, and 2 chakra tails appear behind him. 2-tail mode. Although this state may not necessarily be able to resist Fire Style of that scale, Han doesn't think that boy can use it twice in a row. The canopy bridge has been destroyed, and how to save this important supply line is not what Han needs to consider. What he has to do now is to defeat the enemy. Looking at the Uchiha boy diving toward the fireball, Han made a quick decision and gathered strength in his legs. Although he didn't know what this young man wanted to do, Han believed that this was the best time for him to capture his enemy. He has no flying ability. Once this boy leaves him, the difficulty of chasing him will increase significantly. The Iwagakure ninjas couldn't stop this boy, otherwise they wouldn't have been attacked by him all the way here, and even blew up the canopy bridge. Boil style. Han's chakra began to boil, all concentrated in his legs, and with a fierce kick, a big hole was created from the mountain, and the whole person rushed towards Ruahuo like a cannonball. At the same time, steam began to emit from the armor on Han's left arm, and chakra condensed during the sprint. If this punch could hit Ruahuo, life or death would be unpredictable. But I am an Uchiha, Mr. Five Tails Jinchuriki. Seeing that Han's fist was about to hit his face, Ruahuo, who was pressing the Great Fireball 70 Max with one hand, suddenly turned his head and grinned at Han. The moment Han's fist hits him, Sharingan Genjutsu activates. Puff! Ruahuo's body turned into flames. It's not Shadow Clone. Shadow Clone doesn't have fire effects. It's not a fire clone. The fire clone cannot use the full power of Sharingan Genjutsu. It's just a simple substitute technique, the Great Fireball 70 Max controlled by Ruahuo, which only gives Ruahuo a distance of less than 1 meter. At this moment, Ruahuo was already standing on top of the fireball. Han temporarily lost control of his body, and his body crossed the flames under the inertia, still rushing forward. But it has been locked by Ruahuo's 3 Magatama Sharingan. Snapped. Ruahuo clasped his hands together and controlled the flames under his feet. From the fireball that had previously been filled with most of Ruahuo's chakra, fire dragons emerged from it, and then blasted away in the direction of Han. Fire-style fire dragons killing formation. At this time, Orochimaru is on his way riding a snake. Rumble. Fire dragons were born from the fireballs and launched endless bombardments against Han. Ruahuo drew out 70 times the chakra contained in the Great Fireball, without wasting any of it, and it all hit Han's body. Boom, boom, boom. Fire dragons rushed towards Han. Han had already been forcibly restored to consciousness when he encountered the bombing for the first time. But he didn't have any room to dodge, so he could only curl up and try his best to mobilize the tailed beast chakra's defense, but it was of no avail. The tailed beast's chakra coat does have powerful defensive capabilities. But under the bombardment of fire style on this scale, Han, who is only in the 2-tailed mode, cannot stand at all. Boom! Ruahuo controlled the remaining flames, turned into 2 huge fire dragons, and made the final bombardment. After the bombing, he once again used the remaining power of the fire dragon to activate ninjutsu, condensing a high-temperature fire prison. This sea-level water-style water prison technique, after mutating into fire-style ninjutsu, is no longer a trick to trap enemies. Instead, it turned into an offensive ninjutsu like an incinerator. A bit weak. Looking at Han, who was enveloped in flames and hanging in midair, Ruahuo gasped for breath and stuffed a Bing Liang pill into his mouth. This soldier's food pill was provided by Orochimaru. It is not poisonous and has a very good effect. If one pill is completely digested, it can restore about 20% of his chakra. So the so-called Steam Ninja is a little hexy who can only activate the 2-tailed mode at this time. If you just bring it back to Konoha, you should be qualified to join Anbu, right? Han is not a perfect Jinchuriki. In the Han dynasty during this period, it seemed that even the power of tailed beasts could only be mobilized to a limited extent. Ruahuo himself didn't expect that it would be so easy to subdue this Jinchuriki. Uchiha is indeed the nemesis of ordinary Jinchuriki and tailed beasts. So is this the suppressive power of the immortal eyes on tailed beasts? He has already begun to think about what his Mangekyo will be. The original plan was just to be a war hero. After all, he supported White Fang from thousands of miles away and completed the S-level mission that White Fang failed to complete. The combat achievements are all his alone. Orochimaru is at best a support that attracts firepower. But now I have cleared another hidden boss and captured a 5-tails Jinchuriki. With Ruahuo's political vision, if he is a superior like third-generation Meiwa Danzo, then you can now consider whether this Uchiha poses a certain threat to Konoha. There is a high probability that they will be wary of him, and income from ambush should only be a basic operation. Hey, I plan to gain more experience on the battlefield for a while. Are you going to start Mangekyo so soon? This is not a worry that I should have at my age. Ruahuo touched his chin. By the way, should we find a way to hide this guy? If the Uchiha clan members become Jinchuriki, the system should also determine the strength of the adult clan members, right? Ruahuo raised his eyebrows. Don't tell me, it seems to be true. But it definitely won't work this time. He doesn't know how to extract the tailed beast chakra, and it's not realistic to go to the land of rain to find Nagato now. It would be a good idea to release 5 tails directly, but he doesn't know how to decode it now. Let's exchange it for military achievements this time. Maybe we will have thousands of flowers soon, huh? Ruahuo blinked. He found that white smoke had begun to rise from the fire cell. Oh no, it's not white smoke, it seems to be steam. This explosion progress bar is too long. Ruahuo muttered and controlled the fire dragon bomb to retreat quickly. Just as Ruahuo expected, Han in the fire prison had lost consciousness, and 5-tails Kokuo, who sensed the danger, obviously did not want to die with Jinchuriki, so he fought back on behalf of Han. Boom! The hot steam dispersed the fire prison. 5-tails Jinchuriki Han lost consciousness and entered 3-tails mode, but his body began to fall. Boom! Han in 3-tails mode fell into the water and splashed a lot of water, but he was not washed away by the rushing water. Instead, he stood on the water and screamed at Ruahuo in midair. Roar! The roar echoed through the sky. Quote. Ruahuo's face was expressionless, because he suddenly missed his younger brother Tuzi. If Obito were here, I don't know whether he would be frightened and cry, or yell back. The voice is amazing. Wakayama Magatama once again locked onto Han in 3-tails mode, or Kokuo in 3-tails mode to be precise, and now Han's body is temporarily controlled by Kokuo. Tailed beasts are powerful. Used as a war weapon by major villages, it has unparalleled destructive power. At the same time, the tailed beast is also weak. Ruahuo heard a saying in his previous life. The tailed beast is the divided 10-tails chakra, only the will, not the soul. So Sharingan Genjutsu hits it accurately. Speaking of which, I am blessed with the power of Indra. Can these tailed beasts recognize me? Ruahuo suddenly thought of such a question. But the next second. Roar! Kokuo in 3-tails mode roared again, and facing an aerial unit like Ruahuo, he immediately relied on instinct to figure out the best battle plan. Open your mouth, charge up, chakra 3 to 7, the tailed beast Jade starts to charge. But Ruahuo didn't panic at all. No matter how powerful the tailed beast Jade was, it was useless if he couldn't hit it. He immediately launched a dive, and while the tailed beast Jade had not yet finished condensing, he closed the distance and prepared to launch Genjutsu. At the same time, he also roared. Take a good look at who I am. The other party didn't respond and fired a tailed beast Jade. Good guy. Ruahuo quickly controlled the flying direction of the fire dragon and narrowly escaped this shot. Boom! The tailed beast Jade hit the mountain on Ruahuo, causing a violent explosion and countless rocks began to slide down. But Ruahuo just glanced back, and suddenly the alarm bell rang in his heart. Looking back suddenly, I saw that Kokuo in 3-tails mode had already launched a sprint and charged up to jump over. Ruahuo hurriedly controlled the fire dragon to pull it up. Kokuo in the 3-tail mode hit the air, landed hard again, then raised his head and charged up the tailed beast Jade again. Is it because now we only have animal instincts and no rational reasons? Ruahuo thought about it for a moment, then decisively chose to distance himself and began to browse his B-level ninjutsu reserves. Originally, I planned to accumulate more ninjutsu in the future, and then select the most suitable B-level main skill according to the specific situation. But right now this Five Tails is a bit cranky. If he wanted to get close and activate genjutsu, he would be in trouble if he got hit. So in order to help Kokuo calm down, he might as well recognize his chakra logo. If the fire feels, in order to complete the experiment here, he needs to determine his B-level main skills in advance. Wakahuo's B-level ninjutsu reserves are not too large, and most of them are native fire style. And they are more practical. Needless to say, the native fire style is known for its power. The fire-water dragon bullet he has been using now is also a B-level skill. So it's just a matter of choosing between a powerful fire extinguisher and a water dragon bomb. Although he chose in advance, Ruahuo didn't want to suffer too much. After being extinguished, the B-level ninjutsu is known as the most notorious one. A large part of the reason is due to Uchiha Madara's record. The fire-water dragon bomb is Ruahuo's current flying vehicle, and it is currently equipped with ship-based machine guns and ship-based flamethrowers, and ship-based rockets are still under development. It's a pity that there are no special entries for these two. Like the first two entries of the sea-level main skill Great Fireball, they both increase power and reduce consumption. Even the increase ratio is the same, increasing the power by 300% and reducing the consumption by 90%, which is the basic increase of the main skill. It can be done with 1.5 times more chakra, but it feels unnecessary. Ruahuo is not very willing. Without the increase in Sage Jutsu, the upper limit of fire style is Amaterasu, which he gave up once. He will be able to solve the chakra problem sooner or later, and sooner or later this increase will become worthless to him. In contrast, the special entries that can be triggered by the main skill are what Ruahuo values the most. Ruahuo quickly switched to other B skills. It's all Orochimaru's fault for taking him out on a mission in such a hurry. I really forgot to check first on the way. I don't have any other key techniques. My B-level ninjutsu is still too little. Huh. Ruahuo blinked, and he really discovered a little treasure. B-level main skill shadow clone technique pre-test create a physical shadow clone that can share memory with the main body and fight on its behalf. Main skill increase 1. Shadow clone's anti-hit ability is up pointing arrow 300%, and the buff bonus can be shared with the host. When the main body is hit, 80% of the damage suffered will be borne by shadow clone. Main skill limit 1. After upgrading to the main skill, the upper limit of the skill's use will be locked at 1 inch, and it will enjoy a 1-minute cooling effect. Main skill limitation 2. After upgrading to the main skill, the maximum amount of chakra this skill can carry is 20% of the host. Why didn't I discover you earlier, dear? 3 entries, 2 restrictions, but both can be ignored. After all, he can also learn multiple shadow clone techniques. Ruahuo confirmed this technique almost without hesitation. Not only did he confirm this technique, but a series of tactics also popped up in his mind. For example, first save 180 shadow clone, and then go out and spend them as you like. Or various shadow clone pathfinding, after all, it has 300% resistance to attack. Sure enough, the entry is the essence of the main skill. Ruahuo is extremely excited. Even if shadow clone cannot share the buff increase, it can be called a magical skill based on the other 2 entries alone. Is it because shadow clone has no way to increase its power, so it gave so many entries? Whoosh! A jet of black-tailed beast jade passed by Ruahuo's left side, setting off a gust of wind, and ended up on the mountain not far away. Boom! The power of the tailed beast jade never disappoints, and the sound of the explosion shook the sky. Ruahuo calmed down a lot in an instant, and there was a rampaging tailed beast following behind him. Then let's find a way to calm this guy down first. Ruahuo glanced back, only to find that Han had completely transformed into a half-tailed beast at this moment. His skin had been replaced by black and red chakra, and 5 tails had appeared behind him. He was sprinting all the way with the help of the rocks, chasing him like 10,000 snakes, and his speed was extremely fast. This is going to break the seal. Ruahuo's expression was weird. If the tailed beast in Jinchuriki's body broke through the seal, Jinchuriki would die immediately. This is also the risk of becoming a Jinchuriki, and it is the only way for a tailed beast to escape the bondage of being bound to a Jinchuriki. Kokuo is 5 tails. Han is obviously not a perfect Jinchuriki, and his current relationship with Kokuo is probably not that good either. Kokuo saw the hope of breaking through the seal, and naturally he would not show mercy. Although Han can still see the human form now, judging from the 5 tails behind him. It should be only a matter of time before Kokuo breaks through the seal. Just in time to test the strength of Shadow Clone. Ruohuo raised his eyebrows and immediately formed a seal to use his treasure Shadow Clone. How does it feel? Well, you'll find out later. Shadow Clone pinched his arm and looked at the half-tailed beast man who was chasing after him. By the way, do you want to try practicing 8 Gates Dunjia? Shadow Clone suddenly said, 80% of the damage is transferred, does it feel like opening 8 gates is fine? That makes sense, you go ahead. Ruahuo kicked Shadow Clone off the fire dragon. Then the muscles all over the body tensed up, preparing to welcome the painful memory that was about to return. I saw that Shadow Clone was ready to die in midair. He adjusted his body and shrank into a ball as much as possible, using his knees and elbows to block his vitals. Then, snapped. The half-tailed beast-turned man in berserk state slapped him casually. Call out. Boom. Shadow Clone is embedded directly into the wall next to it. But it didn't disappear. With 3 times the resistance to blows, Shadow Clone can still stand strong even if it suffers such a blow. He also gave a thumbs up. There's something. A Shadow Clone that's harder than the main body. Ruahuo swallowed his saliva, although the Shadow Clone was restricted to have a maximum of 20% of the chakra of the body. But when his chakra limit is raised later, and he adds a thick layer of armor to himself, then Shadow Clone. Isn't it walking sideways? Roar. Suddenly, the half-tailed beast man who was chasing suddenly stopped and let out a deafening roar. This roar is still angry, but it carries a burst of excitement and joy. Roar. There was another loud roar, but the voice was not as hoarse and rough as before. It no longer sounded like an angry roar of a human being who had lost his mind. The part of the beast in the voice was clearer. Ruahuo kept moving forward, looked back, and suddenly the corner of his eye twitched. I saw the half-tailed beast Han standing on all fours with his head facing the sky, while scarlet chakra poured out crazily from his 7 holes, and a huge dog-like creature gathered in front of him. Ruahuo has seen this scene before. The blackened version of Tuzi once did the same thing to Kushina. In the end, 9 Tails regained its freedom for a few episodes, then was split into 2 and sealed again. Roar. There was another roar, but all that was left was the joy of seeing the light of day again. 5 Tails Kokuo completely broke out of the seal. But it did not immediately look for the figure in the sky, but turned its head and looked behind it. There, Han's body was motionless, obviously dead. Boom. Kokuo stepped on it and crushed it several times. Doesn't it feel good to be sealed? Ruahuo's voice suddenly appeared. You should follow me from now on. The ninja world in this era is really too chaotic. Boom. Kokuo kicked down again and directly trampled the Shadow Clone into the soil. But Shadow Clone didn't give in, he even made a seal. Fire style. The fire is extinguished. The high temperature impact on the soles of his feet made Kokuo stagger. In his anger, he ignored another boy riding a dragon who had already rushed in front of him. Look into my eyes, Kokuo. Have you forgotten who I am? Boom. Following Shadow Clone 1, while Kokuo was completely unblocked, Shadow Clone 2 summoned by Wakahuo was also stepped into the ground. Ruahuo was flying in the sky, staring at Kokuo, and suddenly felt a little tricky. He doesn't have much chakra to begin with, and Shadow Clone number 2 only has enough to activate Sharingan Genjutsu once, but the effect. Is it because I haven't turned on Mangekyo yet? Ruahuo frowned, suddenly raised his fingers to the sky, and said silently. I am willing to join Konoha route and serve only Danzo-sama from now on. Useless. I am willing to join Anbu and shine for Konoha from now on. Well, it's no use. There is obviously no chance of temporarily activating Mangekyo. Orochimaru may still be able to try if he is present, but will Kokuo wait with him? Human, why do you know my real name? Just when Ruahuo was hesitating whether to stud, Kokuo suddenly turned around and looked at Ruahuo in the sky. At this moment, one-tailed beast looked at each other. This is perfect timing. Wakahuo has always wanted to activate Sharingan Genjutsu to control Kokuo, and at this moment, Kokuo gave Wakahuo this opportunity. But Ruahuo didn't want it. Don't ask. If you ask, Indra will disdain you. It seems that the power I have awakened now is too weak. Look into my eyes, Kokuo. Ruahuo folded his hands on his chest and stood condescendingly, maintaining the arrogance that an Indra should have. Do you really have no memory at all? Quote. Kokuo didn't respond. Of course, it didn't fire the tailed beast Jade. It stared at Ruahuo's eyes with doubts in its eyes, as if it was confirming something. Ruahuo just waited. No one knows the name of the tailed beast unless a human can make the tailed beast recognize it and tell it personally. This was what he had thought before, thinking that Kokuo would be able to save face after being unblocked. Unexpectedly, Shadow Clone 2 was photographed directly into the soil. But now it seems that being able to call Kokuo by name is obviously useful. At this time, boom, the restlessness in the distance is getting closer. From the time he destroyed the Canopy Bridge to the complete unblocking of Kokuo, it didn't take long, but it was enough for Orochimaru to break through the blockade and come over. Kokuo still looked thoughtful. Ruahuo felt that he needed to remind him. I recognized your chakra, Kokuo. I never thought that people in this era would steal your power in this way. Ha, that's really sad. Hearing this, Kokuo's eyes finally relaxed a little. Those long-standing memories were finally awakened, and looking into the eyes of this human boy, the familiar feeling became clearer. Are you, Indra? It's down there. Ruahuo couldn't help but give Five Tails Kokuo a thumbs up. He was about to say something when he heard Kokuo ask in confusion. But why, don't you grow up? Ruahuo's face darkened. No, I remember you grew up, we all grew up, but you. Kokuo said as he recalled. Ruahuo's expression gradually became a little strange. Kokuo's memory seems a little confusing. Is it because the lockdown has just been lifted? It doesn't matter, just know Indra's chakra. Kokuo, look into my eyes. Ruahuo shouted loudly, and the three Magatama were running at full power. Three Magatama suddenly appeared in Kokuo's eyes. Sharingan Genjutsu was officially achieved. I am Indra, I have awakened from reincarnation. You must listen carefully to what I say next. Kokuo, you and I both come from the same era. I rescued you. You should work with me to re-establish order for this world. Asura is wrong. His weakness will only plunge the world into chaos. Only I can bring light to this world. Before I regained my strength, you stayed with me and helped me keep the secret, do you understand? While Kokuo had just released the seal, he was still in a certain state of chaos. Wakahuo took the opportunity to activate mouth release, supplemented by Indra Chakra and Sharingan Genjutsu, and combined it into Bealton Mouth, which was very effective. You are Indra, child of the Sage of Six Paths. I remembered, have you awakened from reincarnation, Indra? You saved me. Kokuo seems to have sobered up a lot, especially after feeling Wakahui's Sharingan eye power. This has been personally certified by Indra Chakra and is guaranteed to be genuine. Ruahuo breathed a sigh of relief. The next step is to slowly convince Kokuo so that Kokuo can serve Uchiha with peace of mind. Although it would be more convenient to use Sharingan control. But the perfect Jinchuriki is definitely stronger than the rampaging tailed beast. I just don't know what the senior officials will think after Kokuo returns to Konoha. No matter what they think. It's war time now. Do these guys dare to start a war with Uchiha? Correct. Ruahuo suddenly thought of something and continued to activate Byationzui, saying, Kokuo, after my observation of this world during this period, I have found the locations of the other 8-tailed beasts. Most of them are sealed in human bodies. Among them, Kurama's Jinchuriki is the most powerful. When I'm not around you from now on, there are some people you must pay attention to, especially Nine Tails Jinchuriki. She is a descendant of Asura and is good at sealing. Don't mess with her for the time being. Now, Orochimaru is still on his way to Canopy Bridge. If fire could fly, it could cross most terrains. Although Wanshi can burrow into the ground, the closer to the destination, the harder the rocks on the ground become, causing great inconvenience to Wan Shi's ability to burrow into the ground. And these humans, can't they line up and deliver them to Master Wan Shi's mouth? Boom. Another detonating talisman. Why do these humans keep throwing it at its nostrils? The sound over there seems to have stopped. Orochimaru looked into the distance, his eyes slightly worried. Shuo Maojun's distress signal was sent 2 days ago. Support has not arrived yet. He should have left. He didn't know exactly what the child was doing, but what was certain was that those loud noises must be related to the child. And these Yenian also heard those sounds, but they had no intention of returning to defense. Are you confident enough in Kanabahashi's defense? Or was it the order given to them by the top management of Iwagakure to stop them? Can't delay it any longer. Orochimaru made a decision. Although the child has the ability to fly, it shouldn't be difficult to escape. But Orochimaru is not sure whether Iwagakure has any countermeasures. At least according to the information Orochimaru knows, Iwagakure's third Tsuchikage also possesses the art of flying. Lord Wan Shi, I will leave this place to you for now. Orochimaru holds the pheasant sword and stretches out his long tongue to lick his cheek. Konoha Lengjun is ready to go on a killing spree. You only need to hold on for 10 minutes. Next time we meet, I will give you double. Orochimaru hadn't finished speaking when he saw a huge creature suddenly appear on the rocky mountain in the distance, running towards this side with 5 tails swaying behind him. This body type, 5 tails. Orochimaru's pupils shrank. So the movement over there just now was caused by 5 tails Jinchuriki. Tailed beast Jade. Orochimaru's heartbeat accelerated, and more than 30 escape plans instinctively appeared in his mind. At the same time, I immediately realized a problem. 5 tails Jinchuriki appears, Naruahuo. Look, it's 5 tails. It's Lord Han here. 3rd generation Sama actually asked Han-sama to support us. Leave 2 classes with me and limit Orochimaru. Everyone else, disperse. Just leave the battlefield to Master Han. Wan Shi also noticed the huge figure. That's 5 tails Jinchuriki. The main reason is that the scene of 5 tails running wildly is too shocking. It is so huge and extremely fast, with sand and rocks splashing behind it, and white steam spraying from its nostrils. And the incomparable chakra, it's hard not to notice. Although I didn't get to eat what I wanted most, I've eaten enough tributes today, Orochimaru. Wan Shi's tone was a little cruel. Orochimaru immediately realized that this evil psychic beast was preparing to escape. Indeed so. After running all the way here, they had to drill through hard rocks from time to time, which consumed a lot of Wan Shi's chakra. After being besieged by these Iwagakure ninjas for so long, Wan Shi was almost at the limit. In this state, it is obviously unrealistic to want it to deal with 5 tails. But Wan Shi still has professional ethics. Before I lift the psychic spell, I can try to send you off the battlefield. But next time we meet, you need to prepare 500, no, 1,000 sacrifices for me, how about that? There is integrity, but not much. And Orochimaru didn't have time to think about it. Iwagakure's 5 tails Jinchuriki joined the battlefield, and was able to achieve such a high level of compatibility with 5 tails. He had no other choice but to retreat. Not good. Wan Shi suddenly roared, and without saying a word, he took Orochimaru and rushed towards the hole he had just drilled into. Orochimaru was also shocked when he saw 5 tails suddenly stopped halfway up the mountain, facing the sky with its mouth wide open, chakra condensing crazily. Hey, Orochimaru, are these humans from the same faction as the 5 tails Jinchuriki? Wan Shi ran away like crazy and didn't forget to ask. Indeed, Orochimaru also felt that it was a bit outrageous. If he wanted to launch the tailed beast Jade, he would have to at least wait for the Iwagakure ninja to retreat, right? You just don't care about the life and death of the ninja from the same village and want to blow him up. Why is this? Boom. The tailed beast Tama was finally launched and landed on the battlefield, but together with the Iwagakure ninjas, it blew up Iwagakure's defenses to pieces. Wan Snake didn't dare to stop and sprinted towards the holes he drilled when he came. These holes have now become escape passages for him and Orochimaru. But Wan Shi's speed was still a little slower. After running all the way, I was already a little tired, not to mention that 5 tails Kokuo is good at running and sprinting. It seems I have to change my contractor, Orochimaru. Looking at the 5 tails that crashed down in front of them, blocking the way forward, one she said in a cruel tone. But he hasn't waited for it to release the channeling. Teacher, I have caught up with you. A familiar and hateful voice sounded. I saw Ruahuo jumping up from Five Tails' neck, standing on Five Tails' head, holding Five Tails' horns with one hand, and carrying a corpse wearing red armor with the other. Teacher, let me introduce, this is my new partner, Five Tails. Kokuo is in excellent condition. The whole body is snow white, resembling a dog or a pony. The body is slender and strong, and its appearance ranks among the top 3 in the world of tailed beasts. He is also 65 meters tall, which is taller than any other building in Konoha. Wakahara stands on top of Kokuo's head and talks to Orochimaru, needing to look down. Orochimaru tilted his head. Looking from a distance, the student who was sentenced to death by him just 2 minutes ago was now standing vibrantly on top of Five Tails, with the former Five Tails Jinchuriki being held in his hands. So, what exactly happened? This question occupied Orochimaru's thoughts. This kid can fly, very fast, over mountains, across defense lines, deep into rocky and hidden places, and then looking back. Why did you come out riding Five Tails? And he was also carrying the body of Five Tails Jinchuriki. Did this kid defeat Five Tails Jinchuriki? How did he do it? Could there be an error in Five Tails Jinchuriki's information, and he is actually a terminally ill old man? You can't commit suicide in front of this child. And once Jinchuriki dies, shouldn't the tailed beast also? Wakaho-kun. Orochimaru had too many shocks and too many questions. But he just spoke. Roar. Five Tails Kokuo let out a roar at Orochimaru that was enough to make the mountains tremble. Puff. Wan Shi immediately lifted the psychic spell and turned into a white smoke and fled back to Longdi Cave. Boom. Orochimaru was also hit by the sonic impact, which was like a substance, and flew backwards, hitting the rock 10 meters behind him. Puff. A mouthful of old blood spurted out from Orochimaru's mouth, and 2 traces of blood flowed from his nostrils and ears. Facing Five Tails Kokuo's roar, the unprepared Orochimaru was seriously injured. Okay, it would be disrespectful to yell any more. Wakahuo used his mind to stop Kokuo, and then the roar stopped. Teacher, my new partner has just ended his dark and sealed time, and he is still a little uncomfortable with it. Wakaka said to Orochimaru, don't worry, Five Tails doesn't mean anything malicious, it's just a little panicked. Teacher, please say hello to my new friend, and he will stop yelling at you from now on. Quote. Orochimaru stood up in embarrassment, holding on to the rock, looking at Ruahuo from a distance with a complicated expression. He didn't hear clearly what Ruahuo said. The distance was already very far, and his ears buzzed again. His eardrums must have been shattered. But Orochimaru was the chief student of the ninja school back then, and had a solid theoretical foundation, including the skill of lip reading. Although he couldn't hear it, Orochimaru still understood clearly what Wakaki meant. Wakao-kun. Orochimaru spat out another mouthful of blood and felt a blockage in his chest. This new partner of yours is very strong. Orochimaru held the rock with one hand and extended his other hand to give a thumbs up. He lowered his head and calmed down for a while, then he finally calmed down a little. He raised his head again, barely regaining half of his elegance and calmness, and smiled at Five Tails. Hello, Five Tails. Orochimaru forced a smile and said, I am this child's teacher, Orochimaru. I am glad that you can become this child's partner. Five Tails Kokuo puffed out his nostrils in response. Indra, why did you change your name? Five Tails Kokuo's voice appeared in Ruahuo's mind, there is also this human being. He is hypocritical and I don't like him. He has the potential to become the only wise man in this era, and he is very important to my plan. The development of every era requires wise people, Kokuo. Ruahuo responded with his mind, moreover, I didn't change my name, but I awakened part of the memory in reincarnation. The Indra who was once was me, and the Uchiha Ruahuo is also me now. Don't be too entangled, Kokuo. Quote. Five Tails Kokuo was silent for a moment, it seems that the long reincarnation has changed you a lot, Indra. This is completely believed. After having a certain chakra connection with Ruahuo, Five Tails has completely recognized the imprint of Indra in Ruahuo's chakra. So although Ruahuo is different from the Indra in Five Tails' memory, it can still be accepted subjectively. It's like childhood. No matter how you change when you grow up, once your identity is confirmed, it will feel normal. Wakaho-kun. Orochimaru interrupted the communication between one tailman and pointed at the group of dark figures on the other side of the mountain. It seems we have to leave. The ninjas of Iwagakure probably won't welcome us too much. After saying that, he looked at Ruahuo again and said with a smile, "Can you ask your partner to fire another tailed beast jade? I think it will be happy to do so." Hearing this, Ruahuo was really moved. Look at the dark Iwagakure ninjas. How many soldiers will be eliminated with this tailed beast jade? You shouldn't be able to brush up your battle merits or anything like that until they fly. No, teacher. Ruahuo suppressed Qing Bing's thoughts, frowned, shook his head and said, "My partner is a peace-loving tailed beast. He is not very willing to take action against humans. The Kingdom of Earth is also its former habitat. It doesn't really want to destroy the environment. Military exploits and so on, to put it bluntly, it is work performance. Iwagakure is an enemy of Konoha, and it's not Uchiha's, so it has nothing to do with him. The war in the ninja world will last for several years, so Wakagaku has no intention of asking Iwagakure to surrender. Isn't this cheaper for Konoha?" Orochimaru fell silent. So what happened to the tailed beast jade just now? However, as soon as this question came out, Ruahuo blocked it again. And it was just rescued by me and is still a little weak now. Just now I saw that the teacher was in danger. For my sake, it reluctantly used the least powerful tailed beast jade to help the teacher out. This also makes it weaker now, and its condition is not very good. Orochimaru fell silent again. Weak? He doesn't think so. A roar shook his internal organs and made him deaf. Do you call this weakness? However, the tailed beast jade did hit the Iwagakure position, which Orochimaru had discovered before. Then we can't stay long, Lord Ruahuo. Orochimaru didn't hesitate, and the smile on his face returned to his calmness. Okay, then teacher, please call your partners out as soon as possible. Ruahuo said. It didn't catch up with me just now, I can give him another chance. The calmness on Orochimaru's face returned again. Orochimaru finally changed to a big white snake as a means of transportation, all the snakes ignored him. Orochimaru also gave up the idea of riding 5 tails with Wakaki. Wakaki just rode 5 tails and ran away. This will be the second sight on the battlefield today. The boy rode a snow-white 5 tails dog and horse and ran wildly, crossing the mountains and crossing the sea of people. Orochimaru, on the other hand, took a shortcut by relying on the burrow that the snakes had drilled all the way. Although he was quickly thrown away, with 5 tails attracting the attention of the Iwagakure ninja, Orochimaru's escape journey was calm. 5 tails appears, but Jinchuriki is not Han. This bad news was quickly spread back to Iwagakure village. Onoki, who was studying the map while floating in the air, fell down on the spot. Waste, 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 waste. Light, 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 light. But being helped up by the summoned ninja, Onoki felt a little dizzy again. What did you just say? Say it again, Onoki said weakly. 5 tails appeared in full form on the mountain in front of Canopy Bridge, attacked the ninja who intercepted Orochimaru, and is now escaping towards Konoha. The messenger ninja paused, gritted his teeth and said angrily, Master Han, it has been confirmed that he has been sacrificed. Onoki's eyes darkened. 3rd generation Sama. 3rd generation Sama. Cheer up. Come here. Medical class. Medical class. Mr. 3rd generation has passed away. Onoki was so angry that he was temporarily comatose. But soon, the Iwagakure Frontline Combat Command Center took over the Tsuchikage building, and Onoki's son Wangtu made a prompt decision and issued the highest order to all units on the Iwagakure battlefield. Suspend operations against Iwagakure on Kumogakure's side, return to the rear and enter defense mode to prevent Kumogakure from invading. For the Iwagakure ninjas in Konoha, they must intercept them at all costs. They must escape 5 tails to Konoha and recover them. No matter how hard it is to kill him, he must not let Konoha take 5 tails away. 4 tails Jinchuriki was ordered to leave the village and rush to the battlefield. This directive is decisive and resolute. And no matter which angle you look at it, it is undoubtedly correct. While trying their best to intercept 5 tails, they also prepared for the possibility of Kumogakur raiding the Earth Kingdom, trying their best to recover the losses while not being taken advantage of. But can Iwagakure really be able to recover the losses? Ruahuo doesn't make any comments. Anyway, his current gains are indeed quite big. After establishing the chakra link with Five Tails, in addition to gaining the ability to mentally communicate with Five Tails, Ruahuo just received another prompt from the system. Your chakra reserve attribute has been increased to a temporary. Blood inheritance limit. Boil style, activated. How to obtain. Gift from chakra. Trigger the Little Vulcan passive. All your escape skills will be replaced by flames, and the attribute fusion is successful. Your flames can be attached with corrosion effects need to be activated through Five Tails chakra. Corrosion special effect. Your fire style can continue to cause damage after hitting the target, and the duration depends on the amount of Five Tails chakra. Acquire S-level skills. Boil style monster power. Boil style strange power. Raise Five Tails chakra to the boiling point, which can temporarily increase all physical attributes by a huge amount. Does it still have this effect? Ruohuola, I didn't expect that blood succession limit and Little Fire God would have such a fusion effect. The corrosive effect, isn't this what Amaterasu means? Fire style is direct damage, burning the target with high temperature, causing damage. The strongest form of fire style, Amaterasu, has the highest temperature and can adhere to the target until the target is burned. And his boil style version of fire style, rounded up, is just a little Amaterasu. Then find a way to get Sage mode, Amaterasu's flame artificial version, isn't this it? Boil style, strange power. No wonder humans want tailed beasts. Ruahuo was not only happy but also a little sighing. Human beings are indeed greedy. Sealing tailed beasts into the body to gain power is definitely not the initial cooperation method between humans and tailed beasts. The normal plot should be that humans and tailed beasts have had a honeymoon period for a while. Tailed beasts are willing to lend their power to humans and help them. But the humans who gained power wanted to take over the power of the tailed beasts, so gradually. Five Tails is coming this way. Stay hidden. Listen. Try to hold off for a while, support will arrive soon. Wait until it gets closer. It's now. When Five Tails was about to pass through a canyon, with a loud roar, the Iwagakure ninjas who were ambushing here suddenly appeared. Earth-style castle wall. The Iwagakures jointly used Earth-style to create a huge earth wall, which first blocked the direction of Five Tails, and then sealed the entrance to the valley. Taking advantage of the terrain and the mountains on both sides, the Iwagakure ninja actually built an oversized Earth-style cage for Five Tails. This is not over yet. Barriers class. Shouted again. There is also a barriers class. Ruahuo was a little surprised. Iwagakure, I really can't bear to part with Five Tails. Hold on, Indra. Five Tails Kokuo whispered a reminder in the connection with his mind, and his speed increased instead of decreasing. He puffed out steam, lowered his head slightly to reveal the four horns on his head, and headed straight for the earth wall. Boom! This seemingly tall and towering earthen wall was as fragile as tissue paper in front of Five Tails. Five Tails rushed out of the blockade, and the barriers squad didn't even have time to activate barriers. I hope Orochimaru-sensei won't take this path later. Ruahuo glanced behind him and thought to himself. It seems that it is impossible to find Amaterasu, a young Iwagakure experimenter on the road, and Five Tails Kokuo seems not to want to give him this opportunity. But we're almost at the border of the fire country, right? I don't know what they will think when they see Five Tails rushing over. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows. You shouldn't do it directly, right? Don't tell me, it seems really possible. Anyone who sees a tailed beast from an enemy village rushing towards their own village will quickly resist. Then will he seek refuge from danger? Or will he act in self-defense? Or will he purge the espionage organization in accordance with the law? It's so hard to choose, hee. But Ruahuo obviously thought too much. Orochimaru is the disciple of the third generation, the man who will inherit the fourth Hokage. How could there be no emergency remote contact with the Hokage building? Jiraiya also has a little frog. The moment Wakahui rode Five Tails towards Konoha, a small snake had already squirmed out of Orochimaru's mansion and walked through the streets and alleys, avoiding the hunting of wildcats and dogs, as well as the big feet of humans. finally climbed onto the desk in Hokage's office. Third generation, who was working with a crystal ball, suddenly looked tense. This is bad. Something happened to Orochimaru. This is Orochimaru's emergency contact information. Only in extremely urgent special circumstances would you contact him in this way. Whenever Orochimaru is on a high-risk mission, the third generation will try to stay in the Hokage office. Even if he leaves on important matters, Anbu will be asked to wait here to prevent him from missing the information sent back by Orochimaru in an emergency. Or a signal for help. Third generation quickly vacated the table, pulled out a scroll that had been prepared long ago from under the desk, and unfolded it on the table. The little snake immediately climbed onto the scroll, and after squirming several times, left several special marks on the paper. White Fang has been rescued, encountered. Five Tails Jinchuriki. Third generation was stunned. How could this kid Orochimaru be involved in the White Fang's mission? Isn't that a B-level rescue mission? Five Tails Jinchuriki. Encountered. But now was not the time to surprise him for too long. The third generation looked into the air and shouted, "Go and inform Inorikacho and the Minato team. Quick." No one responded, and a figure quickly left the Hokage building. The little snake continued to squirm, and third generation kept its eyes on it, staring at it while deciphering it at the same time. Wakao-kun, capture. Five Tails. Quote. Third generation was stunned for a moment, rubbed his eyes, and looked again. He still didn't understand, so he quickly took out his glasses and found the code book with Orochimaru. Quickly compared and redeciphered, the content is still consistent. Xiao Ruahuo, captured. Five Tails. So Orochimaru was already a little delirious from the dangers he encountered. That kid is only 7 years old. How is it possible to capture Five Tails? This must be a distress signal. It is impossible for the Five Tails Jinchuriki to act alone. Orochimaru may have been surrounded by the Five Tails Jinchuriki and the Iwagakure ninja. What on earth does this kid Orochimaru want to tell me? Concern leads to confusion. For a moment, third generation really couldn't figure out what Orochimaru wanted to express with this concise and clear information. In fact, it means literally, quick, support, direction of Iwagakure. This time I understood third generation, but only half of it. I understand the quick support, but what about the coordinates? Iwagakure direction. Where exactly? That's it. Third generation waved his hand, notify Jonin class to assemble. Chirp. Onomatopoeia for the sound of an eagle. Please refer to the first step of the Chunin assessment for details. As soon as the signal for Jonin's gathering was given, several ninjas rushed to the Hokage office. But they are not here to gather, they are here to report quickly. Third generation Lord. A large number of Iwagakure launch a surprise attack, the number exceeds 5,000. Third generation Misama. Iwagakure has dispatched the Jinchuriki, the number of tails is 5, and they have crossed the border. Third generation Lord. Iwagakure has dispatched Jinchuriki, with an unknown number of tails, approaching Konoha. One emergency battle report after another exploded in Hokage's office. What surprised these ninjas was that their third generation members were already dressed in military uniforms, wearing the armor of that era. As expected of third generation Sama, you have indeed noticed what Iwagakure is doing. Explore again. Third generation shouted loudly. Figures gathered together quickly, and in just a few minutes, all the Jonin on standby in Konoha village were assembled. The battle reports from the front line and Orochimaru's urgent message were completely echoed at this moment. Obviously, Orochimaru sent the message in such a hurry just to remind Konoha. As for Iwagakure's hasty and sudden attack, is it also related to Orochimaru, and whether Orochimaru is encountering something unexpected now? Everyone, the hope for peace has been completely shattered by Onoki. Third generation suppressed the worries in his heart and shouted loudly. He must act tough now, he is not only Orochimaru's teacher, but also Konoha's shadow. More than 5,000 ninjas were dispatched to the Iwagakure front line, with the Five Tails Jinchuriki taking the lead, and they have crossed the border of the Land of Fire. Onoki obviously wanted to take the opportunity to break through Konoha, but he underestimated our will. Third generation looked up and shouted, "We will defeat all invading enemies and drive back the ninjas of Iwagakure." Yes, there was no unnecessary response. The ninjas with different styles knelt down on one knee. They were clearly distinguished. On the left was the Jonin class and on the right was the Hokage's Anbu personal guard. Among the ninjas who gathered in this emergency, there was not a single figure with the Uchiha clan emblem. Iwagakure's entire army has launched an attack, and Five Tails is almost rushing to their doorstep. Of course, third generation must take the lead. Team Minato, SEAL Squad, and I will attack Five Tails head-on. The third generation commander gave the order. Yes, Minato accepted. Yes, the captain of the sealing team took the order. Shikaku, Haiichi, third generation shouted. Yes, *2. Set up a defense line in the shortest possible time, bypass Five Tails and rush to the front line. Yes, whoosh whoosh. The situation was urgent. Nara Shikaku immediately rushed to the front line with a large number of ninjas after receiving the order. Except for Anbu and third generation, there were only 4 people left at the scene. They are the 3 members of the Minato team, Namikaze Minato, Akamaiki Dingzao, and Aburame Shiwei. Refer to Lost Tower for configuration. As well as a red-haired woman. Master Hokage, where am I? The red-haired woman looked very excited. Quote. Third generation was silent for half a second. Kushina, you are Konoha's last line of defense. If I hadn't been able to stop Five Tails. Konoha, please. Whoosh whoosh. Third generation set out with his men. The red-haired woman stamped her foot. The same words again, so annoying. Faced with Iwagakure's large-scale raid, Konoha's ninjas mobilized one after another. Nara Shikaku used the shortest time to plan a total of 13 forward routes for the Konoha ninja troops. Each route bypasses Five Tails' forward route and refers to the forward speed of Iwagakure's army to ensure that Konoha can reach the front line in the shortest time and can block it as soon as it arrives. Moreover, the diffuse advance can also prevent surprise attacks by Iwagakure's squad to the greatest extent. The hairline of the Nara clan is generally backward, which is not unreasonable. The third generation even took the lead, personally leading Anbu and Minato's sealing team to head straight for Five Tails. Is Onoki crazy? The Hokage office is guarded by 3 elders. The third Hokage went to the battlefield. They needed to defend the rear of Konoha. An attack of this scale, with all the Jinchuriki deployed. This is not like a feint attack. They are all ninjas who have lived from another era to the present. The 3 elders are still very calm. And at this moment, the person who directly caused all these events suddenly stopped on the way back to Konoha. Hey, the white-haired old man in front. Are you going to Konoha too? We're just on the way, I'll take you with me. Time goes back to 5 minutes ago. White Fang has just experienced the most important choice in his life. Tasks and companions. In the world of ninjas, there is its own set of rules. Every item in this set of rules has the words, mission first, written on it. But he chose the latter. Abandon the mission and rescue your companions. The price may be high, but White Fang has no regrets. He can also feel the heartbeat of his companions, which is very important to White Fang. He is very happy. At least it was like this 5 minutes ago. White Fang never expected that Iwagakure would be so mad that he sent Five Tails Jinchuriki to pursue him because of his attempt to destroy Canopy Bridge. It seems that you have to walk the rest of the way on your own, boys. White Fang finally stopped. He had no intention of returning to Konoha. Honestly, it's an honor to be able to carry out this mission with you. Although we failed, it doesn't matter, we still have a chance. Zung. White Fang pulled out the short sword and looked at the huge beast running behind him, his sharp eyes filled with determination. Let's go back. Leave this to me. I will delay enough for you. One day, you will complete the task that we failed to complete, blow up that bridge, and then let my son scatter my ashes on it. Promise me. At this moment, even though he was exhausted physically and mentally, White Fang could feel unparalleled power. Looking at the backs of his companions who were reluctant to leave, White Fang smiled with relief. I'm sorry, Kakashi. If you want to defeat that little brat from the Uchiha family, you may have to rely on yourself. White Fang makes the final break with the only softness in his heart. That behemoth is getting closer and closer, and every time it leaps, the earth trembles. Gudong. The tired White Fang did feel a little pressure. Five Tails, is this the oppressive feeling of Five Tails? White tightened the knife in his hand. His knife is very sharp and can easily cut the enemy's throat. But facing this big guy. Hey, the white-haired old man in front. Amidst the shaking of the earth, a childish voice sounded. It was a bit blurry and couldn't be heard clearly, but White Fang was shocked. Is there anyone else nearby? Ordinary people. White Fang looked around and quickly searched for the figure. He didn't want ordinary people to die in the aftermath. Are you going to Konoha too? We're just on the way, I'll take you with me. The voice sounded again. White Fang's expression gradually became weird. He heard it clearly this time, but the key was, the sound seemed to come from above Five Tails. Look carefully. There really is a little dot on top. Standing next to Five Tails' horns, you really can't tell it unless you look carefully. And this voice seems familiar. He seemed to have heard it not long ago, yes, in Konoha, in the Hokage building. It's the Uchiha kid who shouted the will of fire, but used fire style to send the ninjas guarding Konoha building to the hospital. How could he be standing on Five Tails' head? Genjutsu. I see, it can make me fall for it without even realizing it. Is this the power of Five Tails? White Fang sneered. How could he, who has experienced hundreds of battles, not be able to distinguish between reality and genjutsu? You use this to confuse a father. Any father who can't stand your confusion should at least look like Kakashi. Solution. White Fang closed his eyes. It's useless. Oh, what a strong genjutsu, try again. What is this human doing, Indra? Five Tails was a little confused. Is he preparing some ninjutsu? No, he is saying goodbye to his past self. Ruahuo patted Five Tails' horns to signal the brakes. Five Tails used all four legs to stop the strong inertia of its body and plowed two well-defined ravines on the ground. Finally, it stopped steadily in front of White Fang, and the dust kicked up covered White Fang's face. White Fang, who did not feel the murderous intention, was very confident in his judgment and was still working hard to remove genjutsu. He soon choked and coughed, and when he was about to open his eyes and retreat, he saw that the huge Five Tails had lowered his body and lowered his head. The copper bell-like eyes looked directly at him, and white steam came out of the nostrils and hit his face. Gudong. Even White Fang felt a little thirsty at the moment. And this time, it turns out it's you, Kakashi's uncle. Ruahuo looked like he had just recognized you. I saw you on the first day of school. Uncle, are you going back to Konoha too? White Fang was a little confused. He really didn't feel the killing intention. Isn't this genjutsu? But how could this little devil of Uchiha? Are you, Wakahui-kun, the first-year class president who defeated Kakashi? White Fang's intelligence is indeed a bit behind. He has basically been performing tasks on the front line for the past 2 months. Yeah, but I'm a Chunin now. I just came back from a rescue mission. Ruahuo pointed to Five Tails at his feet. Let me introduce, this is my new partner, Five Tails. I met this guy during my mission, and he tried to stop me from destroying the Jinmubi bridge, so I defeated him. Then Five Tails ran out and became my companion. Ruahuo mentioned Taihan's body and wildly hinted that he helped destroy the Kanabi bridge. Only then did White Fang realize that the characteristics of the corpse. Why did it seem to be the Five Tails Jinchuriki of Iwagakure? Unlike Konoha, Konoha's Nine Tails Jinchuriki information is top secret. The third-generation project never lets that person leave the village, and the intelligence information is protected airtight. But Iwagakure and other villages are obviously much more relaxed in this regard. Although they did not publicize the Jinchuriki's intelligence, they frequently sent them to the battlefield in an attempt to create a suppressive local advantage. White Fang recognized the identity of Hanshin Five Tails Jinchuriki. And it becomes increasingly clear that he must have been hit by genjutsu. A kid who had not yet graduated from the ninja school destroyed the Kanabi bridge in such a defense, also killed the Five Tails Jinchuriki, and got the Five Tails. As expected of a tailed beast. Such a ridiculous genjutsu, but I can't find a way to solve it. White Fang tilted his head and chuckled mockingly. Then let's get rid of you genjutsu brat first. A cold light flashed in White Fang's eyes, and he was about to leave, the next second. Roar. The roar of Five Tails shook the sky, like a physical sound wave accompanied by billowing white smoke, directly sending White Fang flying away with his knife. Humans. Five Tails' voice was filled with disgust. Indra, are you sure he will be of use to you? Quote. Ruahuo was silent for half a second. Probably, he's just not very smart. Well, people who choose to commit suicide are basically not very smart. Well, White Fang gritted his teeth and covered his ears tightly, and at the same time he had to withstand the scorching heat brought by the high-temperature steam. But soon, White Fang felt his body being caught again, and then after a flash, he landed firmly on the ground. "Are you okay, White Fang senpai?" Minato asked with concern. "Water, Minato." White Fang felt his ears ringing, but he still heard Minato's voice. "I haven't had sonic shock for too long. I didn't expect to see you here, White Fang." The old voice was a little cold, but it gave White Fang an unparalleled sense of security. "Master Hokage, why are you here?" White Fang was shocked, and was slightly moved. Sure enough, Konoha received its own call for help, and even the third generation personally led a team to come to support. Now is not the time to talk about this. Third generation stared at the behemoth in the distance. "We must deal with the Five Tails Jinchuriki first. We cannot let the Five Tails Jinchuriki threaten the village." Quote. Yes. White Fang stood up and patted Minato's shoulder to indicate that he was fine. Looking back at Five Tails who had already stood up, White Fang secretly gritted his teeth, moved his shoulders, and said, "I just fought against Five Tails and discovered some brand new information. Five Tails Jinchuriki may have mastered a certain amount of genjutsu. Although the content of genjutsu is outrageous, the effect is realistic. Although I just discovered it, I can't get rid of it." White Fang looked extremely serious. "Everyone, please be careful." Everyone looked shocked. Five Tails Jinchuriki still controls such a powerful genjutsu. Genjutsu, even White Fang senpai is helpless. This is going to be tricky. Minato mused. Instead, the usually taciturn Aburame Jawei stood up. "If it's genjutsu, I can help. I have recently cultivated a new batch of bugs called phantom breaking bugs, which need to be attached to you. Small private design." Aburame Jawei stretched out a hand, and an insect the size of an adult dung beetle appeared in the palm of his hand. "The bugs will absorb a small amount of chakra. If you feel hit by genjutsu, the bugs will forcibly disrupt your chakra. It may be a little painful, but it is absolutely effective. Be careful, Indra, I feel the malice of these humans." Five Tails' tone was still disgusting. "Well, I feel it too." Ruahuo formed a seal silently and called out Shadow Clone. Although the reality is right in front of them, it is often difficult for people to believe it if it exceeds their understanding. What's more, this world also has the setting of genjutsu, which can find a better haven for people's ignorance. But killing Five Tails Jinchuriki and capturing the tailed beast at the age of 7 does seem a bit outrageous. Single quote. Ruahuo scratched his head, suddenly understanding White Fang's mood just now. He gave up the mission and took great risks, so he rushed back to Konoha with his companions. As a result, a classmate from Kakashi's class appeared halfway, riding a Five Tails and carrying a Five Tails Jinchuriki, telling him that the funeral had been taken care of, and the Kanabi Bridge had been bombed, so there was no need to worry. Except for Orochimaru, no one seems to think that this is not a genjutsu. "But the system has given me so much, what can I do? With 3 Magatama plus Super Fire style buff, Hanta is not yet a complete Jinchuriki. There is a saying, if I were a grandma, I would be able to win." As for Five Tails, this is a mount he got based on his strength. Five Tails recognizes Indra Chakra. What can he do? "They're coming, Indra," Five Tails Kokuo reminded, and began to increase the temperature of the chakra. Steam was continuously sprayed from the nostrils, officially entering the battle state. "Then let's have a big fight. Kokuo." Ruahuo clapped his hands and his eyes became more and more excited. As long as the other party takes the initiative to attack, he can defend himself. "Roar." Five Tails roared loudly again. "Everyone, it's time to go." Third generation formed a seal with one hand, and the monkey demon moved forward, long. The monkey demon stretched out hundreds of meters and pierced Five Tails like a javelin. "Get away first," Ruahuo ordered. Five Tails Kokuo immediately gave up the idea of using his horns to drive away the monkey demon and started running toward the left. "Don't even think about running away," the third generation shouted, swinging the monkey demon towards Five Tails, and shouted at the same time, "Minato. Yes, Minato was already ready. With his left and right hands on his two teammates, the Flying Thunder God activated and appeared directly at the head of the monkey demon. Although the current Minato is not yet the famous Golden Flash, he is only afraid of the enemy. At least he has mastered the Flying Thunder God technique. Their current purpose is to temporarily restrain Five Tails, and then let the sealing squad leader Five Tails and Jinchuriki forcibly seal it. Don't let them come up, Kokuo, sprint. Ruahuo ordered again with his mind. Whoosh whoosh. The three of them activated their teleportation as soon as they transferred, trying to land on Five Tails' huge body. But Five Tails suddenly charged up its legs and accelerated again to avoid the three of them. Hold on to me. Minato immediately threw out a Flying Thunder God kunai with Sword of Ninja Love engraved on it. The kunai barely caught up with Five Tails, and then launched the Flying Thunder God again. Whoosh! Minato's team flashed again, this time in the sky behind Five Tails. Minato grabbed the Flying Thunder God kunai, while Akamaiki Tingza grabbed two teammates and swung them towards Five Tails below. Go for it! Secret technique. Insect pest. Aburame Jawei released a large number of parasitic insects with his hands, swarming towards Five Tails like black smoke. Minato's attack is simple and crude. Chakra condenses in his hand and expands rapidly, Helix Super Wheel Dance Sky-Breaking Divine Strike. Isn't this the big ball Rasengan? Ruahuo's eyebrows twitched, but he didn't dare to be careless at all. Although the current name of this technique is a bit out of place, its power is still pretty good. If it hits Five Tails, I won't let you hurt my friends. Shadow Clone 1 rushed to Minato and vowed to protect Kokuo to the death. Why are there kids, Uchiha, Sharingan, or 3 Magatama? Minato was shocked, and immediately remembered what White Fang Senpai said, and realized that this was most likely a genjutsu. Very outrageous genjutsu. This Five Tails couldn't have been ridden by this boy, right? Has Five Tails Jinchuriki changed? But he still wears Konoha's forehead protector. But the key to Joesong's phantom breaking insect didn't respond either. Could it be that Five Tails genjutsu can confuse even insects? Thoughts flashed through Minato's mind. After all, little Taiyang was not willing to do anything to the child, but he didn't have the only choice. The Flying Thunder God kunai in his mouth fell, and Minato activated the Flying Thunder God on the spot, but his body forcibly changed its posture. From Shadow Clone number 1 facing Wakahui, to Shadow Clone number 1 facing Wakahui upside down, he even hit the big ball Rasengan on Five Tails. Roar! After all, it is a ninjutsu that can break mountains and rocks, and Five Tails immediately screamed in pain. Did it work? Minato was a little surprised. He quickly turned to look at the Uchiha boy just now, only to see that his eyes were red and his hands were forming seals. Why are you hurting my friends? You are not Konoha's ninjas at all. Then bear the wrath of my will of fire. Shadow Clone inhaled sharply, fire style extinguishing fire. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.